Chapter 2914 Who are you? P.S. Here's today's update, and by the way, let's vote for the starting point 515 fan festival. Everyone has 8 tickets. Voting will also give you starting point coins. I beg everyone to support and appreciate it. In the grotto, Gong Jia was constantly busy, standing in front of the bloody gate, constantly making gestures, his expression changing occasionally. Everyone else was meditating and resting, but Yang Tai seemed a little restless, walking back and forth, turning his head to look at the bloody gate from time to time, but he didn't dare to disturb him easily, appearing very anxious. Wu Kuangyi asked him to sit down. Yang Tai smiled and declined. Senior brother Yang, is there anything wrong? Hua Yulu asked quietly through voice transmission. Yang Kai didn't open his eyes, and replied via sound transmission, wait and see. So far, he didn't see any suspicious things, except for the previous doubts about Gong Jia's identity, but that was just doubts, he couldn't be sure himself, so naturally he couldn't give Hua Yulu any definite answer. Whether this suspicion will become a reality depends on Gong Jia's next performance. While resting, he immersed his mind into the jade slip handed to him by the army of the South Gate, checked the content again, and memorized some key points in his heart. Half a day later, Gong Jia suddenly took a few steps back, stared at the bloody gate, smiled slightly, and said in greeting, "Everyone, please come here." Everyone was shocked when they heard the words. They all got up and walked towards that side. Yang Tai couldn't wait to come to Gong Jia, and asked eagerly, "Brother Gong, what do you know?" Gong Jia smiled and stroked his beard, a little bit. Okay, it's good to have eyebrows. Yang Tai's face flushed with excitement. But if you want to break the formation, you still need to rely on your help. As soon as this remark came out, Yang Kai couldn't help but thump in his heart, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the suspicion in his heart became more and more intense. Wu Kuangyi said, "I don't know what the old patriarch Gong needs us to do. I am not proficient in the way of fighting, and only Brother Fang has a little understanding." Gong Jia smiled and said, "You don't need to be proficient, you just need to cooperate. The premise is that everyone must trust me unconditionally. Everyone, look at me and I look at you." "I don't know how much trust he needs to trust," Yang Tai said. "Since you have invited Brother Gong to help, we will naturally trust you." "That's good." Gong Jia smiled slightly and said, "I will teach you a set of methods. After you are familiar with each other, you can form a formation together. If this set of formations is completed, this ancient prohibition can be broken. Then what are you waiting for? Brother Lao Gong will teach you." Yang Tai said anxiously. Gong Jia smiled slightly and called everyone to come forward. Take out a few blank jade slips, brand them with spiritual thoughts, and hand them to everyone one by one. Yang Kai took it, swept away his spiritual mind, thoroughly understood the content of the jade slip, and then sighed slightly in his heart. Although he doesn't know what other people's jade slips contain, but he thinks it should be different from his own. If we form a joint formation, everyone needs to be responsible for different things. At this time, a center is needed to coordinate the integration of everyone's power, as one. And this center will undoubtedly be held by Gong Jia. The central position controls the most delicate part of the formation, and is the center of the formation. Once the formation is formed, he can control other people who form the formation to a certain extent. Although it is not enough to control the life and death of others, this kind of control is also it's not something Emperor Senior Realm can easily accept. That's why he said just now that everyone should trust him unconditionally. There can be no unity without trust. Yang Kai didn't go to look at the contents of the jade slip because he had already read it. In the jade slips given to him by the Nanman army, there are records in this regard. He asked Bian Yuqing to bring the information about the ancient forbidden formation back to Lingxiao Palace that day, in order to let the army of the South Gate carefully study a plan to break the formation. The army of the South Gate is worthy of the reputation of the Emperor's formation master. In just over a month, 3 options were studied. One of them is to break through the formation, just like what Gong Jia is doing at the moment, but if he really does this, he will fall into someone else's trap. Because breaking the formation with the formation is just the beginning, to completely break the ancient restriction on the bloody gate, another method is needed, an extremely evil method. Yang Kai originally planned to help Hua Yulu and others break the formation with the plan developed by the South Gate army, and then explored if there were any good things in it, but he didn't want to have an extra Gong Jia on the way. There is such a formation master in the team. Of course he didn't need to show his face again. However, what Gong Jia did made him suspicious. If he just had doubts about Gong Jia's identity before, then he can now conclude that there is a problem with Gong Jia, and there is a high possibility that Yang Tai also has a problem. As for the other person, Yang Tai not sure yet. He raised his head and glanced at Yang Tai, and saw that Yang Tai had a concentrated expression, and seemed to be checking the contents of the jade slip in his hand, but in fact, his spiritual thoughts were secretly surging, and he was silently communicating with someone. Yang Kai immediately understood. As if aware of his gaze, Gong Jia suddenly raised his head to look at him, and said with a smile, "Brother Yang, do you have any questions?" "Yes," Yang Kailang shouted. The voice was surprisingly loud, echoing back and forth in the grotto, interrupting the attention of others, causing Wu Kuangyi and others to frown and show displeasure. Gong Jia said, "I don't know why Brother Yang Xiao is puzzled. Maybe the old man can explain a thing or two. There is only one question." Yang Kai looked at him with burning eyes, narrowed his eyes and said slowly, "Who are you?" The smile on Gong Jia's face froze slightly, and the other emperors who were startled by him also raised their heads in surprise, and they didn't bother to check the contents of the jade slips, their faces were full of astonishment. After being stunned for a moment, Hua Yulu immediately moved closer to Yang Kai, as if looking for a sense of security. The grotto was quiet for a long time, only Yang Kai's aggressive eyes were like two knives trying to cut through Gong Jia's mind, revealing the secret hidden in it. "What do you mean?" The first questioner was not Gong Jia, but Wu Kuangyi. His temper seemed to be more eager, and he had to ask questions if he had any questions in his mind, otherwise he would be uncomfortable. "Literally," Yang Kai replied lightly. Wu Kuangyi frowned, secretly annoyed by Yang Kai's attitude, but there was nothing wrong with Yang Kai's answer, but he was a little too surprised. "What enmity does little brother have with me? Or with my Gong family?" Gong Jia asked, and the indifferent smile returned to his face. "No enmity, no grudge." Yang Kai shook his head. Gong Jia smiled and said, "There is no grievance, so why does the little brother question my identity again and again?" When Gong Jia first arrived, Yang Kai questioned him once, but it turned out that Fang Zhou took the initiative to verify Gong Jia's accomplishments in the way of formation, and made people believe that he was the former patriarch of the Gong family. Now is the second time, the clay figurines are also 3-point fiery. Gong Jia, as the former patriarch of the Gong family in Tianhe Valley, is also a strong second-tier emperor, and he was questioned like this. His lack of anger is enough to show his Xinxing cultivation, and his temper is slightly irritable. "I'm afraid that I'm going to fight Yang Kai immediately. The old man is the old man, the previous patriarch of the Gong family, Gong Jia, who resigned 200 years ago." Gong Jia's voice suddenly became a little higher, even his figure became taller, and his words were powerful. "Brother Yang Ju, don't make a fuss. The old man guarantees his wealth and life. Brother Gong's identity is absolutely fine." Yang Tai jumped out to smooth things over, but there seemed to be a trace of worry hidden between his brows, which seemed extremely obvious. He urged, "Now is not the time to get entangled in this, let's find a way to break this ancient restriction first and then talk about other things. If the problem is not resolved and we cannot work together, how can we break the formation?" Yang Kai turned his head and asked. "You." There was a trace of anger on Yang Tai's face, with a clear sense of blame. "This brother Yang is also right." Shen Bingru, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. Yang Tai turned his head to look at her, and said in amazement, "Madam Shen, you too." Shen Bingru was the helper he invited over, and the two had a close relationship in private. He never thought that Shen Bingru would actually stand by Yang Kai's side at this time, which made him inexplicably sad. Shen Bingru smiled and said, "Brother Yang, calm down, I have been cultivating to this level, and I have come all the way. Whenever I encounter danger, I am not careful, like walking on thin ice. If I didn't have this caution, I am afraid that I would have been classified as lowest like all other living beings. So I want to hear what this little brother Yang means and what he wants to express." She looked at Yang Kai with beautiful eyes, a pair of bright eyes seemed to be able to speak. Yang Kai nodded to her. It's not that she trusts Yang Kai, but since there is a problem, she naturally wants to listen. Anyway, it won't delay much time. Wu Kuangyi hesitated for a long time, until this time he also opened his mouth and said, "What are you doubting? Tell everyone to listen." Yang Kai Dao. "I said it." Gong Jia sighed. "There is no reason for your suspicion." Yang Tai looked at Hua Yulu sadly and said, "Master Hua, this is the helper you found. If he doesn't want to help, he cannot come. Why did he destroy the unity and stability between us? It's all right now, the formation is still there. It's not broken, we have a problem internally, just because of a nonsense. Hua Yulu blushed slightly and said, I believe. Senior brother Yang. With a sullen face, Yang Tai said to Yang Kai angrily, Boy, if you don't want to participate in breaking the formation, you can leave now. You are also Emperor Senior Stage, you should remember the origin, just return directly, I don't force it. Yang Kai smiled slightly, if I leave, how will this formation be formed? Yang Tai snorted and said, as long as Brother Gong is here, why not lose you? Brother Gong alone can break the formation. Yang Kai turned his head to look at Gong Jia, and said with a smile on his face, then you have to ask Patriarch Gong, if 5 people assist him, can they form a Liuhe dominance formation? As soon as this remark came out, Gong Jia's face was slightly startled, and Fang Zhou, who had never spoken before, raised his eyes to look at Yang Kai, showing a shocked expression on his face. Yang Tai opened his mouth wide and looked at Yang Kai stupidly. The rest of the people looked at their words and immediately understood that Yang Kai was right. 515 is coming soon, I hope to continue to hit the 515 red envelope list, and on May 15th, the red envelope reign can give back to readers and promote works. One Piece is also love, it must be better. Close black lens bracket caret. Chapter 2915 exposed. P.S. Here is today's update. By the way, I will vote for the starting point 515 fan festival. Everyone has 8 tickets. Voting will also give you starting point coins. I beg everyone to support and appreciate. The formation that Gong Jia wants to set up is really called Unique Venerable Formation, but before Yang Kai said it, everyone didn't know it. In the jade slips that Gong Jia handed over to them, there was only a way to form the formation, and there was not much explanation. Everyone only needs to operate their power according to those methods and cooperate with other people. It doesn't seem too complicated. Everyone believed that the jade slip that Yang Kai got should be the same. So here comes the question, how did he know the name of the sovereign formation? And according to what he said, if this formation is to be set up, it must be supported by 6 people, all of which are indispensable. Everyone turned their heads to look at Gong Jia in unison, only to see that his brows were tightly wrinkled, with an extremely surprised look on his face. Brother Yang is also proficient in formations. Fang Zhou looked at Yang Kai with great interest, and felt that this guy was really hiding his secrets. He had done some research on formations, otherwise he would not have been invited by Wu Kuangyi. Without Gong Jia if so, then among the people here, he is the one who has the deepest attainments in the way of formation, and breaking the ancient prohibition may depend on his ability. But even he didn't know anything about this supreme formation. This formation was obviously an extremely ancient and remote formation, but he didn't want to be seen through by this Yang Ju, which made him admire secretly. But to his surprise, Yang Kai shook his head. I don't understand, I just happen to know this asterisk sovereign formation. There is only one formation he is proficient in, the teleportation formation. This is also thanks to Yang Yan's careful teaching back then, and because he possesses spatial supernatural powers, otherwise he would really know nothing about the formation method. Fang Zhou didn't say anything more when he heard the words, he just thought that Yang Kai was being humble, someone who knew this kind of formation that was out of the ordinary. Obviously, it is impossible to really understand the way of formation. I'm not wrong, old Patriarch Gong. Yang Kai tilted his head and looked towards Gong Jia. Gong Jia's smile disappeared, and he nodded his head in a deep voice, that's right. What the old man wants to arrange is indeed a supreme array. Although he had already guessed it, but when he really heard Gong Jia admitting it himself, everyone was still shocked. But what does this have to do with the identity of the old man? Gong Jia asked. The old man is still the old man, little brother, did you make a mistake? Shen Bingru nodded and said, that's right, this brother Yang, what does this dominant formation have to do with the identity of the old Patriarch Gong? Although I don't know much about the formation method, but according to the records in the jade slip, this asterisk the sovereign formation is broad and profound, and it is rare that the old Patriarch Gong can explain it clearly and simply. It is not something ordinary people can do to let someone like this concubine learn it in one go. Yang Kai frowned slightly, pondered for a while and said, okay, it's okay to be the old Patriarch of Gong, the point is not here. Then what is the point? Wu Kuangyi asked. He was a little impatient, but Yang Kai's serious look made him realize that things were not very good, and he had to ask more questions about his own safety. Supreme formation. Yang Kai was talking to other people, but his eyes were fixed on Gong Jia, not moving for a moment. Everyone has already read the contents of the jade slips, and you should have some understanding of the principle and structure of this formation. What I want to tell you is that this formation is called Supreme. After we cast spells together, the 6 people will turn into 6. However, the old patriarch Gong, who is in charge of the hub of the formation, dominates the center alone. The longer the formation lasts, the stronger his control over the 6 of us will be. Once it reaches a certain limit, he can do whatever he wants. No matter how strong I am, I will not be able to break free from his shackles. After the words fell, everyone's expressions changed drastically, and they all turned their eyes to Gong Jia. If what Yang Kai said is true, then Gong Jia's move is intriguing. After the asterisk dominant formation is set up, the center can actually control other people. This is simply unacceptable. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Gong Yuewen said calmly, "That's why I said it before. Everyone should trust me unconditionally. Only in this way can we combine all our strengths and break the formation." Yang Kai snorted. The one who broke the formation was not the double Venerable formation, but another method. You want me to wait for the blood sacrifice? Blood sacrifice? Wu Kuangyi was taken aback. Even though he only listened to Yang's words, his back was covered in cold sweat. Yang Kai said with a smile, "Brother Wu probably doesn't know. Breaking this ancient restriction is simple and easy, but it's also difficult to say. In fact, you only need to bleed a little more to break it. You didn't try it when you came here last time. Through this method." Bleeding. Wu Kuangyi's face was pale and he was shocked. How much blood do we need to let out? Who knows? Maybe it's enough to drain our blood. Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders, as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. Blood sacrifice is not the only way to break the formation, but it is the easiest way, and the blood of ordinary warriors is not enough. The stronger the strength, the better the effect, and the blood of a few emperors is definitely enough. Wu Kuangyi turned his head to look at Gong Jia, not daring to say anything. Patriarch Gong, is he right? Feng Zhou and Shen Bingru also stared at him, revealing a questioning look. As for Hua Yulu, they had always stood by Yang Kai's side and believed in him. She was the only one present who knew Yang Kai's true identity. As the elder of Qingyang Temple, she believed that Yang Kai would not harm her. This had nothing to do with her understanding of Yang Kai. This was the prestige of Qingyang Temple. It was also at this time that everyone understood why Yang Kai suspected Gong Jia's identity. Because if Gong Jia is really the former head of the Gong family, there is no reason to act so cruelly. The Gong family of Tianhe Valley is also a sign after all, and smashing it will do no good to the Gong family. I was secretly rejoicing that this Yang Ju knew something about the unique Venerable formation, otherwise I'm afraid he would really be tricked, but after thinking about it, how did this Yang Ju know that the blood sacrifice can break the formation? He said just now that he didn't understand the formation, but when he talked about this supreme formation, he was very eloquent, and his words were contradictory everywhere. It turns out that little brother Yang is also a member of the same class. Really rude. Gong Jia looked at Yang Kai with a half smile, with a trace of surprise in his brows, but no panic. This expression imprinted in Yang Kai's eyes, making him feel inappropriate, and he always felt that he had missed something. Old Patriarch Gong, what he said is true. Wu Kuangyi's eyes widened. You really want me to wait for the blood sacrifice to break the formation? Gong Jia smiled slightly. I do have that intention. When the words fell, Gong Jia suddenly heard a slap, as if something was broken. At the same time, Yang Kai's face changed, and he finally realized what he had ignored, and threw the jade slip out of his hand, and it was too late when he was about to remind others. There were several crackling sounds, and the jade slips that had been held by everyone burst into pieces one after another, each turning into a beam of light that wrapped around everyone. All the people present were in the Emperor Prestige realm, and their reaction was not unpleasant. The moment the jade slip shattered, they each counterattacked. However, Gong Jia's movements were even faster when he did the calculations mentally and unintentionally. He raised his hand and shot 2 black lights. One turned into a black curtain and enveloped Wu Kuangyi and others, and the other flew towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai hurriedly retreated to avoid it, but found that the more he retreated, the closer the black light was to him, and he was caught off guard by the black light as a sign, and his vision suddenly changed. When he regained his composure, there was a sound of waves in his ears. The waves around him were undulating, the sky was cloudless, and the sun was shining brightly. He actually came to a vast sea. He did not distinguish between north and south, up and down, east and west. The sky was high and the sea was wide, standing alone. Array card. Yang Kai's face suddenly became gloomy. This is an illusion, Yang Kai can be sure of this, and can arrange such a large-scale and realistic illusion formation in an instant. Even Gong Jia does not have this ability. The only explanation is the array card. This kind of phantom formation is sealed in the formation card, and it is convenient and quick to sacrifice it directly when it is needed. The only disadvantage is that it cannot be compared with the phantom formation that is really painstakingly arranged, and its power is smaller. However, the illusory array card that Gong Jia made was of a very high grade, so it would still be possible to trap Yang Kai for a while, especially since Yang Kai's soul has not healed and his strength has been greatly reduced. However, he believes that as long as he is given enough time, he should be able to find the flaw in this phantom array. The few jade slips that recorded the information of the asterisk sovereign formation just now are obviously formation cards. Gong Jia is worthy of being an old fox. He has obviously saved his hand. Even if Yang Kai exposes his conspiracy, he has the ability to subdue other people in an instant. Only Yang Kai woke up early and threw the jade slip out, but still couldn't avoid the fate of being trapped. Now Yuelu and the others must have fallen into Gong Jia's formation, and as a formation master, with a cultivation level of Emperor Zun's second-tier realm, the power that Gong Jia can display in the formation he arranged absolutely comparable to the Emperor's three-layer mirror. In other words, even if Yuelu and the others joined forces, they might not be able to defeat him. Yang Kai must rush to help. But he obviously didn't have this chance. Above the sea, a figure flashed. Yang Tai appeared strangely. He stared at Yang Kai with a gloomy face, no longer the amiable image before, as if he had a hatred for killing his father and taking his wife with Yang Kai. His eyes were full of resentment and viciousness. You really are an accomplice. Yang Kai looked at Yang Tai who appeared, snorted coldly, and quietly searched for the flaws of this phantom array while speaking. Gong Jia was found by Yang Tai. Since Yang Kai had suspected Gong Jia, Yang Tai was naturally among his suspects. Seeing Yang Tai enter this illusion easily at this moment, the previous suspicion immediately became a reality. Accomplice. Yang Tai sneered. Take me as an accomplice. Originally, I was most wary of that Fang Zhou. I didn't expect you to be the bad guy. I underestimated you. Yang Kai's face was gloomy and terrifying, as if dripping water. He thought for a while and said, then Gong Jia is really the former patriarch of the Gong family. Although he had doubted Gong Jia's identity twice before, but after being trapped in this illusion formation, he realized that his suspicion was wrong. To arrange such a profound phantom array. 515 is coming soon. I hope to continue to hit the 515 red envelope list, and on May 15th, the red envelope reign can give back to readers and promote works. One Piece is also love, it must be better. Close black lens bracket to be continued. Chapter 2916 Manpower is sometimes poor. P.S. Here's today's update, and by the way, let's vote for the starting point 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 tickets. Voting will also give you starting point coins. I beg everyone to support and appreciate it. What Yang Kai didn't expect was that the former patriarch of the Gong family was so vicious, he would put his family's reputation in vain for the sake of an ancient cave. Brother Gong is naturally true. I don't know what you suspect him to do. Yang Tai looked at Yang Kai sarcastically, as if mocking him for being smart. Yang Kai sighed. Anyway, you and Gong Jia are in the same group, I am not mistaken about this. Yang Kai also made a mistake. He thought that Fang Zhou was also an accomplice of the two, because Zhou lost too quickly in the competition of formation method before, and it was that comparison that made everyone confirm Gong Jia's identity. Yang Kai thought it was just acting, so even Fang Zhou became suspicious. It is only now that I know that Gong Jia really has the strength to crush Fang Zhou in the formation. Are you looking for a flaw in this formation? Yang Tai also has the cultivation base of the first level of Emperor Senior, and he is old and mature, so it is naturally impossible not to detect Yang Kai's intentions, but he looks confident, and he is not in a hurry trying to stop Yang Kai's movements, but with a joking smile on his face. Then you have to look for it carefully. The formation that Brother Gong has set up does not have many flaws. Yang Kai turned his head suddenly, stared at him, and whispered, so that's the case. Yang Tai laughed loudly. See? Yang Kai nodded and said, thanks to your reminder, you are the flaw in this formation, and the formation is on you. Yang Tai readily admitted, that's right, I entered this formation and controlled the eyes of the formation. It's not difficult to break the formation, just kill me. He smiled slightly, like a fox who stole a chicken, but do you have such a skill? It wasn't that he looked down on Yang Kai, although the two had similar cultivation levels, but when everyone passed through the poisonous barrier before, he saw that Yang Kai had shot, and the attack was weak. Unsustainable, the aura fluctuates, which should confirm the speculation in the hearts of everyone about Yang Kai's injury, and moreover, he is now the eye of the phantom formation, and he has obtained the control of this phantom formation from Gong Jia. In this phantom formation, he can exert a strength far beyond the first level of Emperor Senior. So he has nothing to worry about. Even if Yang Kai sees through the eyes of the formation, he doesn't have the ability to break the formation. Why? Yang Kai frowned. What why? Yang Tai was not in a hurry to make a move, he had an absolute advantage at the moment. Consciously wanting to take down Yang Kai doesn't take much effort, and he can shoot at any time. No one knows what is hidden behind the bloody gate. Maybe there are treasures or traps. Who can say clearly about things from the ancient times? You even don't hesitate to murder other people's lives for it. Why? Yang Tai laughed loudly, shook his head and said, you don't understand anything. That's why I have to ask to understand. Yang Tai frowned, as if talking to himself or whispering, there are very important things in there, very important, and must be obtained. Yang Kai was slightly surprised. Do you know what's inside? How could you know? There are ancient restrictions on the bloody gate. Half a year ago, Yang Taiwu, Kuangyi, Hua Yulu and others were unable to break the restriction, so they agreed to go out to find helpers, and they would try again half a year later. The restriction was not broken, and no one could know the secret hidden behind the Scarlet Gate. To murder the lives of 4 or 5 Emperors Senior Realm for an uncertain result, a little bit of normal would not consider these things, but Yang Tai did it, and invited Gong Jia as his helper. And his soliloquy clearly shows that he is not ignorant of the situation inside the Scarlet Gate. This is what shocked Yang Kai the most, and what made Yang Kai feel bad. Yang Tai's state at the moment is not quite right, like crazy, how can he still have the demeanor of the Emperor? He quietly stimulated the power of his soul, and a golden light shone in his left eye. The power of the soul rushed out of his mind, and he said in a low voice, tell me, what's in there? In there, Yang Tai blurted out, but just after he said a few words, his face suddenly changed. At the same time, Yang Kai snorted, his face pale. The soul has not healed. He forcefully urged the power of the soul again. If it was not resisted by Yang Tai, it would be fine, but after Yang Tai reacted, he immediately counterattacked, causing Yang Kai to be injured again. You dare to lure me? Yang Tai's face twisted immediately, he was furious, and he was no longer willing to waste time with Yang Kai. He opened his arms, and the seawater surged up behind him, converging into a vivid water dragon, shaking his head and swaying towards Yang. Open the collision and come. The sound of the dragon's chant shook all directions and shocked the universe. The huge dragon body grew from the seawater, connecting the sky and the earth, and the huge mouth opened, and it was about to swallow Yang Kai. Cold sweat fell from Yang Kai's forehead. Although he knew that all of this was due to the power of the phantom formation, he didn't dare to accept it. His current state is not good, and any negligence may cause irreparable bad luck. So in the face of such a terrifying blow, Yang Kai's first reaction was to avoid it. His body swayed, and he flashed several tens of feet from the spot. Before he could stand still, the seawater under his feet swirled violently. In the blink of an eye, a vortex appeared, and another water dragon rushed out of the vortex. Yang Tai sneered continuously. Boy, let's get caught, you are no match for this old man. Not counting relying on the power of this formation, Yang Tai also has full confidence to take down Yang Kai, but it will take a little more effort, now that he has entered the illusion formation as the eye of the formation, and can control the power of the formation. Yang Kai is even more insecure. It may be his opponent. Divided into two purposes, controlling the 2 water dragons to chase Yang Kai, Yang Tai was not idle. Although a blood sacrifice is required, it may not necessarily kill you. Just help the old man to open the ancient prohibition. You now, if you cooperate obediently, this old man can still walk around you without dying, but if you are caught by this old man, heh. He didn't say what the consequences would be, but the threat was beyond words. How could Yang Kai believe him? Dodging the attack of the 2 water dragons without saying a word, several times appeared dangerous, and gradually approached Yang Tai. Toast, don't eat fine wine. Yang Tai's persuasion did not get any response. His mood was ruined, and when he raised his hand, 2 water dragons emerged from the sea, chasing and intercepting Yang Kai. Now Yang Kai's situation is getting worse. It seems that the dilapidated thatched cottage in the storm may collapse at any time. But every time he was able to avoid the water dragon's attack at the most critical moment, Yongtai shouted and became furious. Yongtai has completely lost the demeanor of Emperor Senior Realm. Ever since he saw the bloody gate, Yongtai noticed that something was wrong with him. He was more fanatical than usual, and his mood fluctuated greatly, but it was hidden before, not obvious, but after entering this phantom formation and fighting with Yongkai, it becomes extremely conspicuous. 4 water dragons became 6, then 8, 10. When there were as many as 15 water dragons on the surface of the sea, Yangtai's clothes were windless and automatic, hunting, and the Emperor Yuan lingering on his body kept rolling like boiling water. Staring at Yongkai's flickering figure, the whole person is like a volcano that may erupt at any time, containing huge anger. Yongtai couldn't help but be angry. He thought that with his own ability and the addition of the formation, taking down Yongkai would be like pinching a snail, but in fact no matter how dangerous Yongkai's situation seemed, he could always save the day at critical moments. Imagine, and the gap in reality made Yongtai unacceptable, and his anger rose steadily. This anger escalated after he summoned 15 water dragons. He controlled those water dragons with all his heart, chased and intercepted Yongkai for a while, and finally trapped him in a certain place on the sea, with no room to escape. The dragon roared, and the huge water dragon shook its head and slammed into Yongkai. Yongtai sneered and said, "Boy, you should be glad that you are still useful. I won't kill you now, but I will let you taste something more painful than death later." Yongkai stood on the sea, watching the 15 water dragons hitting him, as if resigned to his fate. He didn't dodge like before, but his face didn't show much panic. The berserk breath rushed from all directions. Before the attack arrived, Yongkai was already chilled all over. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The 15 water dragons suddenly seemed to have a cramp. They twisted together a few times, and then burst apart like bubbles, turning into a shower and floating down from the sky, like pearls falling on plantains, splashing on the sea surface. There was a crackling sound. Yongtai was stunned, his expression twisted, and hissed, "What did you do?" He thought that Yongkai had secretly used some method just now, and unexpectedly broke his method of controlling the formation without him noticing, but he was still the eye of the formation, which did not change, which made him a little puzzled. Yongkai grinned. "Although I'm not very proficient in formations, I also know a truth. Manpower is sometimes poor, especially for an old man like you." Yongtai, who was in a rage, turned even uglier when he heard the words. But Yongkai's words also made him understand that the broken water dragon was not a means of Yongkai's display, but because he exceeded his own limit, causing the illusion to go out of control. He didn't notice such a simple matter just now, until Yongkai reminded him to become alert. He wanted to control the phantom array again, and he made up his mind to be careful this time. He fought with Yongkai for a long time, and found out his details. This kid is just faster, and there are not many other things worth paying attention to. But Yongkai no longer gave him a chance. Has been evading and avoiding, waiting for this opportunity. How can Yongkai not take advantage of it? His hands quickly formed seals, and an extremely mysterious aura surged up and down. Being overwhelmed by this aura, Yongkai actually had a feeling that it was extremely difficult to change his thoughts. His thinking seemed to have stopped at this moment, and everything in the world was at a loss. Stand still, as if time has been disturbed. When he reacted again, Yongkai's murmur came from his ear. The years are dry and prosperous, like a shuttle, like a dream. A palm print came down from the airstrike, and Yongtai didn't wake up until he was near. Before that, he didn't even notice the trace of Yongkai's hands, as if the memory of that moment just now had been erased. 515 is coming soon. I hope to continue to hit the 515 red envelope list, and on May 15th, the red envelope rain can give back to readers and promote works. One Piece is also love, it must be better. Close black lens bracket to be continued. Chapter 2917 Demon Suppression. With the power of one palm, Yongtai was thrown into the sea, and the blood he spit out stained the blue sea red. Open black lens bracket, no pop-up window. Close black lens bracket. He paid a heavy price for his carelessness. The power of time eroded his old body, and the little remaining vitality was like a discouraged ball, quickly passing away. This made him extremely flustered, and he didn't know what to do with himself. Just when he was at a loss, Yongkai had already chased him down, and he was still in a strong figure even in the sea water. After a few steps, he came to Yongtai, raised his hand and patted him. The sea water was rolling, as if being caught. It's as if it's boiled, although that palm is not the imprint of time and power, but it is not something that Yang Tai at the moment can take hard. Yang Tai let out a strange cry, and his whole body was shot to pieces. Yang Tai did not have the slightest joy after succeeding, but turned his head and looked aside. Under the sea over there, a huge catfish with a thick beard was swimming away quickly, and escaped several miles in the blink of an eye. It was transformed by Yang Tai. At the most critical moment, he mobilized the power of this phantom formation, and created the illusion of being killed in front of Yang Tai, but the main body turned into a catfish and escaped. Yang Tai himself certainly doesn't have this ability, but with the help of the phantom array, he can do whatever he wants. 10 miles away, the catfish jumped out of the sea, reappearing the figure of the old man. At this moment, Yang Tai no longer strolled in the courtyard as before, but was in a state of embarrassment, with a large blood spot on his chest, and he bent over and coughed violently a few sounds, as if a terminally ill patient is dying soon. The power of time is still eroding every inch of his flesh and blood, every bone, making him flustered. No matter how much he resists, he can't get rid of it. Yang Kai also jumped out of the water, panting lightly, looking at Yang Tai from the air. Yang Tai was injured by him, but his condition was not good. In normal times, a guy like Yang Tai can be killed easily, but in the current state, if you want to kill Yang Tai, you have to put in more thought, especially when the opponent still has the advantage of the right time and place. Damn it, you should die. Yang Tai gritted his teeth and cursed, his eyes full of resentment. Yang Kai raised his hand and a few moon blades slashed at him, and he followed the moon blades and rushed forward. He doesn't know the situation outside, but he also knows that the longer he delays, the worse the situation will be. Sha Sheng entrusted Hua Yulu to him, so he had to take her back properly. Yang Kai can ignore other people's life and death, and Hua Yulu can't make any mistakes. He took some opportunities, and he didn't want to be beaten passively anymore. He wanted to take the initiative in his own hands. The moon blade roared past. Yang Tai stopped cursing, felt the terrifying killing hidden in the moon blade, and at the same time his complexion changed, his body melted like water. The moon blade slashed through his body, but failed to cause any harm to him. And Yang Tai apparently also started to activate the power of the formation. The sea began to roar, setting off hundreds of feet-high waves. The huge waves turned into a huge water man, vaguely visible Yang Tai's facial features, limbs gathered together. Water giants ride the waves. Every breath and breath can roll up the tide of the sea, bringing about a terrifying attack. Compared with Yang Kai who rushed forward, he was like an ant and an elephant. In a short time, Yang Kai encountered the water giant, and a million swords were sacrificed, and the sharp sword light went back and forth, cutting cracks one after another in the huge body of the water man, but no matter how Yang Kai attacked, those cracks could be destroyed. Recovered in a very short period of time. The water man transformed by Yang Tai is roaring above the sea. In the phantom array, the secret technique of the 5 elements of water was used by him to the pinnacle, and Yang Kai was a little stretched immediately. He was determined to become a dragon, and even sacrificed the mountain and river clock to make a final sound. But his own injury did not allow him to do so, and now he could not even display half of his peak strength. Yang Tai gradually took advantage, and this advantage gradually expanded, and Yang Kai was completely suppressed. The huge water man roared, "I will tear you to pieces." He seemed to have forgotten his original intention and wanted to use Yang Kai's blood for a blood sacrifice. Today's Yang Tai is going to kill Yang Kai. A trace of black air suddenly emerged from the transparent water figure. Feeling the appearance of the traces of black energy, Yang Kai was shocked and lost his voice. Devil energy. He was dumbfounded for a moment. He actually saw the devilish energy in Yang Tai's body. Although it was not pure and not too strong, it was definitely devilish energy. It is impossible for Yang Kai to admit that he was wrong. He has just walked out of the Thousand Illusion Dreamland, and he has only dealt with the ancient demons for 2 years, and he still has a fresh memory of this aura. How could there be magic energy in Yang Tai? Yang Kai couldn't understand it. In ancient times, although the demons invaded this land several times, they were all beaten back. The passages of the 2 worlds should have been sealed, and it was impossible for ordinary people to see them. But after thinking about it, I have also obtained magic energy, but it is more pure and ancient than Yang Tai's. Yang Tai must have obtained something, so he was able to breathe the devilish energy. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind like lightning and flint. Yang Kai suddenly had a flash of inspiration, and gritted his teeth. Is it the secret technique? Hua Yulu said that the 3 people who participated in the exploration of the ancient cave half a year ago all got some benefits. She got a small flower drum, Wu Kuangyi made great progress in it, and Yang Tai learned a secret technique. When Yang Kai was on his way, Yang Kai was fortunate to see Yang Tai perform that secret technique, the power condensed from an extremely complicated ancient text. Even if he stayed in the ancient world for 2 years, he still didn't know what the mystery of that text was. I just saw it in the temple of the witch god, and the records of the temple of the witch god are also unclear. Now that I think about it, the ancient script is not the script of this land, maybe it is the script of the demon clan. It is recorded in the witch god temple to make future generations vigilant against the existence of this type of writing. Yang Tai learned the true meaning of that text without knowing it, and a trace of demonic nature emerged in his body, and this trace of demonic nature exploded and awakened when he was fighting to the death with Yang Kai, and the demonic energy was born from this. All of this is speculation, but Yang Kai couldn't find any better explanations. If this is the case, then Yang Tai's previous anomalies make sense. He is still in the Emperor Prestige realm anyway, and has a corresponding Xinxing cultivation base. Too much emotional changes or even being too fanatical about something is by no means what he should have. But it would be perfectly normal if the evil thoughts hidden in the body were causing trouble. Thinking about it, Yang Kai was startled again, and secretly felt that perhaps it was the magic thoughts generated by the demon script that made Yang Tai understand the secret behind the Scarlet Gate. If this is the case, then the thing sealed behind the Bloody Gate is definitely related to the demons. Yang Tai, you've lost your mind. Yang Kai shouted loudly. Yang Tai turned a deaf ear to it, and the water transformation giant slapped it with his palm, setting off a huge wave, as if it was going to smash the whole world into pieces. Tell me, is there a demon clan sealed behind that door? Yang Kai continued to roar, but this time he used his soul power to send the voice into Yang Tai's ears, making it impossible for him to ignore it. There are some ancient demons that are difficult to kill, such as the troll black pupil that Yang Kai met, who was sealed outside Fenggalan City by the ancient power. If the seal behind the Bloody Gate is also demons, or if it is part of the body of the demons, it is definitely not a good thing to release it. The last time Yang Kai had a coincidence to seal that ancient devilish energy in his dantian, this time there will be no miracles happening again. Now that Yang Tai heard Yang Kai's shout, the water giant paused slightly, and immediately became furious. How do you know? How do you know? As if some shady secret had been exposed, Yang Tai became a little annoyed. Yang Kai's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. The water giant raised his palm again and slapped Yang Kai fiercely. Yang Kai stood still and didn't dodge anymore. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the aura on his body suddenly changed, becoming ancient and deep. He unleashes the power of witchcraft. After coming out of the Thousand Illusions dreamland, Yang Kai has been wanting to test whether he can still display the ability of witchcraft. After all, he has cultivated for this kind of power for more than 2 years, so he can't waste it in vain. So on the way here he did a few experiments. The result of the experiment made him happy. He could freely switch between Emperor Yuan and witch power. The two powers did not conflict, but the power of witch was smaller than his own, and it was a bit cumbersome to perform witchcraft, not as simple as today's various secret techniques. Yang Kai also noticed that although witchcraft can be used, it does not have the power in the Thousand Illusions dreamland, and only 80% of the 100% of the power will work. Yang Kai felt that this was due to the laws of heaven and earth. The barbarians in ancient times could only practice witchcraft, because the laws of heaven and earth in that era were different from those of today. As time passed, the laws of heaven and earth have also undergone some subtle changes. The creatures of each era have their own characteristics. Yang Kai forced to use ancient witchcraft in this era, so he would naturally be suppressed. This is the general trend, and no one can change it. The incantation sounded in his mouth, and Yang Kai quickly sealed his hands, and the lightning-like light burst out from his hands, and spread out to the surroundings. Suppressing demons. At the same time as the low moan sounded, the light swept across the body of the water giant. There was no harm, but the water giant seemed to have been severely injured, and the action of slamming it was stopped, and there was no momentum. At the same time, a mournful cry came from the mouth of the water giant, which was the cry of Yang Tai. The traces of black air floating on the surface of the water giant were like snowflakes under the scorching sun, melting one after another after the rays of light passed by. During the more than 2 years of war in the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland, the barbarians also developed a lot of witchcraft against the demons. This way of suppressing demons came into being at that time. It does not have much lethality, but it can suppress the demon's strength. Yang Kai has mastered dozens of such similar witchcrafts, all of which are similar. After suppressing the demon, Yang Kai cursed again, and another ray of light enveloped him. Yang Tai's cry became more and more miserable. To be continued. Dash 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 dash. Dash 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 dash. Chapter 2918 The Mystery Behind the Door. When Yang Kai cast the seventh witchcraft, the huge water giant burst into pieces. Yang Tai's screams stopped abruptly, and the roaring sea returned to calm at this moment. Open black lens bracket no pop-up window. Close black lens bracket. Yang Kai looked awe-inspiring, let go of his spiritual mind, and looked around for Yang Tai's trace. But he didn't find anything. In this phantom formation, Yang Tai's aura disappeared without a trace. After a while, Yang Kai sensed the existence of the formation here, and suddenly realized that Yang Tai had fled, and he was no longer here. The facts are just as Yang Kai observed. At this moment, in the grotto, beside a piece of blue smoke, a figure suddenly flashed by. Yang Tai appeared in a panic, and when you appeared, he bent down and coughed violently, coughing up a large amount of blood. Blood. Brother Yang, how do you? Not far away, Gong Jia, who was presiding over the sovereign formation, was taken aback when he saw this. He was in a trance and almost made a flaw in the formation. When I got up, Hua Yulu, Feng Zhou, Wu Kuangyi and Shen Bingru were suspended in midair with pale complexions, arranged according to a special pattern, but they seemed to have lost the power to resist. From the tiny wounds, the bright red blood was flowing out from these wounds, gathering towards the bloody gate under Gong Jia's direction. And that bloody gate seemed to have turned into a bottomless pit. No matter how much blood was sent to it, it would be swallowed up without leaving a single drop. With the inflow of blood, the bloody gate gradually burst into a strange light. Gong Jia has the cultivation base of the second level of Emperor Senior, and his strength is not impressive. He has the help of formations. Hua Yulu and others are not opponents at all. At this moment when Yang Kai and Yang Tai are entangled, without any power to fight back. Gong Jia originally thought that it would not take much effort for Yang Tai to take down Yang Ju, but when Yang Tai showed up in embarrassment, he realized that he was wrong. That Yang Ju was able to defeat Yang Tai in the phantom formation, how could he have such a great ability? How's it going? Yang Tai ignored Gong Jia's shock, and his attitude was no longer friendly as before. His brows were majestic and impatient. At this moment, he seemed to be a king questioning his subordinates. Gong Jia frowned and said, I have no problem here, but if two people are missing, the speed of breaking the formation will become very slow, and it will take about an hour. The trapped Hua Yulu and others heard the words. They are all ashes. Using the method of blood sacrifice to break the formation is definitely not as easy as it seems on the surface. Every time a piece of blood is drawn, they can feel heart-piercing pain, but it is suppressed by the formation. Make them unable to make a sound. Hearing that it would take another hour, the four of them felt panicked. If this is the case, they might as well die immediately, so as not to suffer such torture again. 1 hour is too long. Yang Tai shouted, and turned his head to look at the light blue smoke with some trepidation. That Yang Ju was trapped in it, but he no longer had the guts to go in and fight with it. To be honest, although Yang Ju's previous performance surprised him, he didn't have much fear. But at the last moment, the several secret techniques displayed by Yang Ju made him feel deeply horrified, as if he had encountered a natural enemy, and he lost even the courage to face it. Use my blood. Yang Tai took the initiative to move closer to Hua Yulu and the others, and stood in another position, pointing at his wrist with a knife, and blood gushed out immediately, as if he didn't want money. Brother Yang, you. Gong Jia looked at Yang Tai in surprise, instinctively feeling that his current state was not quite right. This is not the same as planned, in the plan of the two of them. Although Yang Tai also wants to stay in the sovereign formation, but it is only a support. The most important source of blood sacrifice is the other 5 people, as long as the blood of those 5 people is drained. Should be enough to break the formation. But things were not as expected. First, Yang Ju found some flaws, which led to some accidents. Now even the people who set up the formation can't get together, and Yang Tai is even more willing to pay for it with his own blood. Participating in it, a posture of swearing to the death to break the formation. What are you waiting for? Hurry up. Seeing Gong Jia showing hesitation, Yang Tai couldn't help urging him, and his tone seemed extremely unfriendly. Gong Jia frowned and said, Brother Yang, is there really what you said behind this door? At this time, Gong Jia had some thoughts of retreating, mainly because Yang Tai's performance made him feel uneasy, and he couldn't help wondering if all he had done was worth it. Yang Tai snorted coldly. You also have a little insight into the mystery of that word, and you naturally know how powerful it is. There are more words like this behind the door, which hide the ultimate mystery of martial arts. As long as you can open the restriction, you will be promoted to the 3rd floor. The situation is so easy, who would dare to underestimate your Gong family in Tianhe Valley? As for the reputation of your Gong family, they are all dead, and who knows what happened here. The old man is with you, so naturally we won't expose what happened today. Gong Jia's expression changed a few times, and finally made up his mind and said, okay. The main reason why he agreed to cooperate with Yang Tai and deceive others was that he had seen the power of that ancient script. With Yang Tai's cultivation base of the 1st level of Emperor Zun, the character displayed has a strength comparable to that of the 2nd level, which shows that the character has a lot of origin. Although the Gong family is not a small family, but because there is no Emperor Zun 3-layer mirror powerhouse to sit in, so the status in the southern region is a bit awkward. When mentioning the Gong family, everyone thinks of formations, but they don't know that the Gong family also yearns for strength with the power of the Emperor, especially Gong Jia. He regards the revitalization of the Gong family as the goal of his life, but the cultivation base of the Emperor's 2nd-tier realm is neither high nor low, and it is really difficult to become a master. Yang Tai assured him that after breaking the formation, he would be able to obtain the secret of being promoted to the 3-layered mirror of Emperor Zun. Gong Jia was tempted, so he teamed up with him. As Yang Tai said, after the blood sacrifice, everyone present will die, and who would know that the former patriarch of the Gong family had done despicable things? There will be no blow to the reputation of the Gong family. Under Yang Tai's urging, Gong Jia's technique changed, and Yang Tai immediately let out a muffled snort, and large streams of blood gushed out from the wound on his wrist, like a fountain. In order to speed up the speed of breaking the formation, Gong Jia also increased the demand for the blood of the other 4 people, and Yuelu and the others showed unbearable expressions in an instant, in unbearable pain. As the blood flowed in, the light of the bloody gate became brighter and brighter. Yang Taifei, who had lost a lot of blood, didn't feel any discomfort, but instead looked excited, staring at the bloody gate for a moment. At this moment, there was a soft crackling sound from the light blue smoke next to him, and Yang Kai's figure burst out of it. Without Yang Tai's host, Gong Jia was distracted and exhausted. The phantom formation created by a formation card could not withstand Yang Kai's onslaught. He only used a very short time to break through the formation after Yang Tai left. Method: get out of trouble. With a sweep of spiritual mind, Yang Kai immediately understood the current situation. Under Yang Tai's anxious and apprehensive gaze, he swung the million sword in his hand, drew a shocking sword light, and slashed at Gong Jia fiercely. Gong Jia is the leader of the array, and if he wants to break this domineering array, only by attacking him can it be miraculously effective. Gong Jia was not surprised, or he had expected it long ago. After Yang Tai escaped from the phantom formation, he had anticipated the current scene, so he flicked his fingers, and a formation card flew towards Yang Kai. As the former patriarch of the Gong family and the Grand Master of formation techniques, Gong Jia doesn't have many other things, but formation cards are terribly many: killing formations, illusion formations, and trap formations, all of which are endless. The space was so small that Yang Kai couldn't avoid it at all, and he who had just escaped was dragged into the formation again. Seeing this scene, Yang Tai applauded loudly and laughed, but Yuelu and others turned even paler. They have no other hope now. They are restrained by the sovereign formation, they can't display their strength at all, even their freedom is controlled by Gong Jia, and there is no way to get rid of it by their own ability. They could only put all their hopes on Yang Kai, but Yang Kai was just a flash in the pan, which made them disappointed. The expectations that had emerged were shattered, and they felt that this time they were dead. How long can he be trapped? Yang Tai turned to Gong Jia and asked. Gong Jia frowned, and replied, 30 breaths. Yang Tai seemed a little dissatisfied, but he also knew that there was no way to do it. If Gong Jia presided over it himself, he should be able to trap Yangju for a longer time. It is the limit to be able to trap Yangju's 30 breaths of effort. After 10 breaths, the formation suddenly shattered, and Yang Kai's figure reappeared. What? Gong Jia turned pale with shock, with a dull expression on his face. He just said that the formation technique can trap Yang Kai for 30 breaths of Kung Fu, which is to overestimate the opponent's strength as much as possible, but in fact it was broken after only 10 breaths. How powerful is this Yongju? It's coming again, Yang Tai yelled, reminding Gong Jia to sacrifice the formation card again. And after suffering a loss, Yang Kai became more careful, and opened the distance between him and Gong Jia in a flash, and shouted at the same time, Old Patriarch Gong, regardless of whether you are voluntary or deceived, I only tell you one thing, Yang Tai has become a demon. You are helping the evildoers like this, and it will do you no good to the Gong family, and there is still time to stop the precipice and rein in the horse. What are you talking nonsense about? When did this old man become a demon? Yang Tai retorted, fearing that Gong Jia would be affected. He hurriedly urged, Brother Gong, don't listen to his nonsense, the most important thing is to take him down quickly. Quote. Yang Kai flickered and disappeared, and voices came from all directions. There is an ancient demon clan sealed behind this bloody gate. Yang Tai is going to release it. You may not know the horror of the demon clan, but I think you definitely don't want to see it. Yes, Gong Jia, are you sure you want to be this accomplice? This is an ancient cave. So far, it has been tens of thousands of years if not hundreds of thousands of years. How can any demon race be sealed? The kid is lying all over the place, not to mention that even if there is a demon race sealed, they are probably already dead. Brother Gong, there is the ultimate mystery of martial arts behind the door. Don't believe that kid, open the door, you and I will share the benefits. To be continued. Dash 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 dash. Dash 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 dash. Chapter 2919 Yang Tai goes crazy. The quarrel between Yang Kai and Yang Tai buzzed in his ears like flies, making Gong Jia very irritable. Read the latest chapter. He raised his hand and sacrificed a few formation cards, and laid down several formations to guard his side, so that no matter where Yang Kai attacked from, he would definitely fall into the formation. That's it, Yang Tai laughed loudly, and shouted provocatively into the void. Boy, I admit that you have some abilities, but that's all. If you want to survive, it's too late to escape now, otherwise it will be too late. Quote. He was really afraid of Yang Kai's various secret techniques, and always felt that those secret techniques were designed to restrain himself, so he wished that Yang Kai would get out of here as soon as possible. As for whether Yang Kai would reveal the secrets of this place after he escaped, that's not what he needed. Considered it. He just needs to open the door. There are still 5 people left here including him, which is enough for blood sacrifice, which means it will take a little longer. Gong Jia's expression sank when he heard the words. Although he set up a trap with Yang Tai, it was for the entire Gong family, so he never thought about keeping anyone alive, including Yang Tai, who was also the target he wanted to kill. How can you allow Yang Kai to escape alone? Turning his mind, he said, there is a demon clan sealed behind the door, what evidence is there? Yang Tai told me that there is the ultimate mystery of martial arts. Yang Kai's cold snort came from the void. Do you really believe it? If you really believe it, then you are a fool. Gong Jia said in a low voice. I have peeked into the mystery of that word, it tells me that Yang Tai is not lying. That's the text of the demons. You have been deceived. What? Gong Jia's complexion changed drastically, and he lost his voice, the words of the demon clan. Under the shock of his mind, there was a flaw in the layers of formations he had laid down. Yang Kai suddenly appeared at this time, no one saw clearly how he appeared, and when he showed his figure, he was already standing 3 feet in front of Gong Jia. The panic on Gong Jia's face subsided instantly, and a shrewd light shone in his eyes. Everything just now was obviously a disguise, a means to lure Yang Kai to show up. Yang Kai really showed up, he sneered and his mind moved. He tried his best to urge the power of the formation around him to drag Yang Kai into the formation. This time he would not take it lightly, and secretly decided to deal with Yang Kai first even if he was distracted. In Yang Kai's hand, a simple clock appeared. Didi Lu spun, and a huge bell shadow swelled suddenly. The ancient desolate atmosphere filled the air. Yang Kai trembled all over, and seemed to be showing signs of losing strength, but the big hand that was dragging Xiao Zhang was as steady as a rock. Bang! There was a muffled sound. Everyone felt that their eardrums were pierced, and they felt dizzy for a while. Before the layers of formations arranged by Gong Jia had time to activate, they were smashed to pieces by the sound of the bell, and collapsed all of a sudden. Not only that, Gong Jia was struck by the mountain and river clock that was so close at hand. Without noticing it for a while, Gong Jia felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Out! Hit the side of the whole wall and slipped down. He has the cultivation base of Emperor Zun at the second level. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be so vulnerable, but he thought that he had won the victory, so he was defenseless, and the whole person suffered the violent blow of Shan Bell head-on, and he was seriously injured all at once. The sound of the bell raged through his flesh and blood, making him unable to breathe. And without his host, the dominance formation was finally broken, and Hua Yulu and others who had been suspended in midair fell down like dumplings. Everyone was shocked and inexplicable. Exclaimed. They are all Emperor Senior Realm, but at this moment they all fell in a mess, like babies who haven't learned to walk, and they can't get up after falling to the ground. Embarrassed. Although most of the power of Shan Bell was borne by Gong Jia, it still had some influence on them. In addition, they had been controlled by Gong Jia all the time, and they lost too much blood, so they were already weak to the limit. Now they may not even be able to exert the power of ordinary people. The only better one is Yang Tai. He entered the battle late, and although he had shed a lot of blood, he was much better than the others. He only staggered to the ground and stood firm. But this sudden blow made his head a little dazed. Everything went smoothly. He didn't expect the situation to take a turn for the worse in the blink of an eye. He stood on the ground for a long time before finally reacting. A pair of eyes glared at Yang Kai with incomparable resentment. Gritted his teeth. Why? The killing intent was like a tide, and suddenly enveloped Yang Kai. Yang Kai was also staggering. The blow of Shan Zhang made him use all his strength. At the moment when the oil was running out, even the Emperor Yuan in his body was not functioning well. Seeing Yang Tai divine sense locking on himself, as if he was about to strike immediately, he quickly took a deep breath, squeezed the little remaining power from his dantian, and cursed from his mouth. Yang Tai was taken aback. His anger seemed to be poured with cold water, and it was extinguished all of a sudden. His expression became a little cowering, afraid of Yang Kai. He had suffered from Yang Kai in the Phantom Array before. Knowing the power of this strange secret technique, it seemed to be his own natural enemy, so when he heard this obscure curse, he instinctively feared. He took several steps back before finding a sense of security. Yang Kai also kept silent in a timely manner. He is at the end of his strength now, he can no longer use his strength freely. Yang Tai doesn't move, and he doesn't bother to make the first move. The current situation gave him some headaches. The 7 Emperor Senior stages were weaker than the other. Yang Tai's situation was considered the best. If he really made up his mind to hurt the killer, Yang Kai could only hide with Hua Yulu returning to the mysterious realm orb. As for the life and death of other people, he has no control over it. But Yang Tai was really very afraid of Yang Kai, and he didn't dare to attack him again. The gradually dimming light on the side caught Yang Tai's attention. He turned his head to look at the bloody gate, and wailed, "No, it can't be like this." Before the blood sacrifice under the auspices of Gong Jia, the light of the blood-colored gate became brighter and brighter. The ancient prohibition once showed signs of being opened, but after being destroyed by Yang Kai, the blood sacrifice was interrupted, and the light gradually dimmed. Stabilize. Yang Tai roared a few times, and he didn't know what he thought of. He turned his head and stared fiercely at one of the people present, and then stretched out his hand to grab him. "Yang Tai, how dare you?" Wu Kuangyi roared angrily. He wanted to resist, but how could he have the strength? Yang Tai picked him up like a chicken. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Yang Tai reached out and slapped Wu Kuangyi several times, then threw him towards the bloody gate. Wu Kuangyi let out a painful scream, and then stopped abruptly. He slammed into the bloody gate, perhaps because of the force of the impact, or perhaps because of the power of Yang Tai's previous palms on him. His whole body suddenly exploded into a cloud of blood, with no bones left. Thick blood and minced meat were all smeared on the bloody gate. The gradually dim door glowed with a glimmer of light again. Everyone looked at this scene, and their expressions froze. Wu Kuangyi's death made the rest of the people feel a sense of sadness, and no one knew whether Yang Tai would be the next one to make a move. Not enough, not enough, not enough. Yang Tai gave a crazy look, and after killing Wu Kuangyi with his own hands, he showed a look of extreme annoyance, muttering incessantly. His eyes shifted over to the remaining people. At the same time, a faint black energy emerged from his body again, which was the devil energy that Yang Kai was familiar with. Everyone he saw involuntarily looked away, fearing to offend him, but only Yang Kai looked at him coldly, and said with a sneer, "Give up, Yang Tai, your plan is no longer feasible. Is this restriction right? It may be opened again, you are already possessed, death is not a pity." On the other side, Gong Jia, who was wounded by Yang Kai and managed to calm down, stared blankly at the devil-ridden Yang Tai, pointed at him, and said tremblingly, "You." He finally saw something was wrong. The demon energy on Yang Tai's body was so obvious, how could Gong Jia not notice it? Until this time, he did not believe what Yang Kai said before. Yang Tai is really obsessed. If this is the case, then Yang Tai's promise is not worth a penny. Thinking of this, Gong Jia's heart was ashamed. He took a huge risk to collude with Yang Tai, but he didn't expect that it was just a scam in the end. He didn't know what Yang Tai was planning, but he knew that there was absolutely no mystery of the ultimate martial arts behind that door. Give up. Yang Tai didn't notice Gong Jia. He roared hysterically, I haven't completed my mission, how can I give up? Yang Kai grasped something keenly, and frowned. Mission? Is it your mission to open this restriction? Is it the mission given to you by the thing behind the door? Has it communicated with you? Yang Tai kept silent, seemed to realize that he had talked too much, glanced at the crowd, and said with a sneer, a bunch of trash, even if you all sacrifice blood, it will not be enough. In fact, if Yang Kai didn't interrupt the blood sacrifice, it should be enough, but after being interrupted, all previous efforts were wasted. Yang Tai went completely mad. He opened his arms, as if he wanted to embrace the whole world. For the first time, the demonic energy on his body seemed so strong. It's coming, you're all ants in the future. He yelled some inexplicable words, then let out a maniacal laugh, turned around and rushed towards the bloody door. Yang Kai's eyelids jumped, and the others were also dumbfounded. No one expected that things would have such a dramatic turn. Yang Tai's posture seems to be to break the ancient prohibition by sacrificing his own blood. No one tried to stop it. Firstly, Yang Tai had ulterior motives and caused everyone to be in such a mess. It is really not a pity to die. Secondly, Wu Kuangyi was killed by him just now and used for the blood sacrifice to no avail. So everyone just watched. To be continued. Dash 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 dash. Dash 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 dash. Chapter 2920 Magic thought breaks through the air. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Yang Tai slammed into the bloody door fiercely. Read the full text. He used all his strength for this collision, and he didn't do any protection for himself, so the end result was almost predictable. Hearing the sound of a bump, Yang Tai exploded into a cloud of blood just like Wu Kuangyi before. But his blood and minced flesh were not scattered on the door like Wu Kuangyi, but seemed to have some kind of life, wriggling slowly in midair, gradually gathering together and reorganizing. The people who were relieved just now were once again worried, not knowing what this change meant, but everyone felt a very bad feeling in their hearts. Yang Kai's feeling was superior, he could feel the slightest trace of blood mist from Yang Tai's explosion. There was a touch of magic, it was an aura that made him extremely uncomfortable, as if he had entered the ancient world again, and once again faced the strong in the demon realm. In the blink of an eye, the cloud of blood mist took shape. This is... Gong Jia's eyes widened and he let out a low cry. Magic text. Yang Kai gritted his teeth and shouted, the uneasiness in his heart suddenly swelled to the extreme. The shaped blood mist turned into nothing else at the moment, it was the rune exposed when Yang Tai used the supernatural power before. Driven by a mysterious force, the bloody rune slammed on the door. No one knows what miraculous effect such a mana blood sacrifice composed of the essence of Yang Tai's whole body will have on the door, but since Yang Tai has done this, he must have some certainty. The light was so bright that Yao could barely open his eyes. Just when everyone lost their sight, a burst of clicking sound suddenly sounded. Everyone was startled, and after realizing what the sound was, they all turned pale. The bloody door has been opened. The blood sacrifice that lasted for such a long time was interrupted by Yang Kai, but under Yang Tai's desperate fight, it finally became the last straw that crushed the camel. Whatever is in there will be revealed in the next moment. Yang Kai used his eyesight to the extreme at this moment, and finally saw some clues. The bloody door was indeed opened. But there was only a gap exposed, and it was not fully opened. The many restrictions and lines on the gate seemed to be still working, giving birth to a force that was opposite to the rune, prevent the door from opening. At this moment, Yang Kai vaguely saw something flying out of the gap in the gate. The light dissipated, and the door closed again. When all the dust settled, everything before seemed to be just an illusion. Everyone was in shock, looked at each other. But soon someone noticed something unusual. Then, what is that? Shen Bingru's voice was trembling, and she pointed to something floating in front of the gate and asked. Everyone looked in the direction of her finger and couldn't help but tremble. I don't know when there was a black on the size of a mung bean floating in front of the gate. It was too small, and it didn't have any special aura, so everyone didn't notice it at first, not to mention the light here. It wasn't very good at all, and Shen Bingru only discovered it by chance. The black glow was like a dead object, floating there quietly, without any abnormality. When Yang Kai's spiritual sense swept over, his face changed drastically. With a low voice, "Magic thoughts, everyone, keep your minds, don't be eroded by it, if you are eroded, you will definitely become a demon." As soon as the words came out, everyone's complexion changed drastically, but Yang Kai had just rescued them from the ghost gate, so even if they were puzzled, they almost reacted instinctively. All of them closed their seas of consciousness and guarded their minds. "Brother Yang, demonic thoughts. Is it the kind of demonic thoughts we know?" Fang Zhou asked. The evil thoughts in his mouth refer to all kinds of distracting thoughts generated by warriors on the road of cultivation, all kinds of thoughts that can affect cultivation, and greed. Beauty, jealousy, hatred, are all evil thoughts, and at some point may make people go mad. Yang Kai shook his head, looking at the mass of black light like a formidable enemy, involuntarily recalling the various experiences in the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland in his mind. Then he opened his mouth and said, "There is a big world called Demon Realm, where the creatures call themselves the demon race, and they have eroded the star world several times in ancient times. The ancient sages repelled them and killed many strong demons. But the characteristics of the demons are very strange, and their vitality is extremely tenacious. Some things are difficult to kill. Even those ancient sages cannot completely destroy them, so they can only be sealed. I don't know what is sealed inside the bloody gate. What, but this evil thought escaped from behind the door, and the evil thought is the remnant soul of a powerful demon. The thing he saw running out from behind the door just now was exactly this mass of black light." Hearing this, the few people seemed suspicious. It was the first time they had heard of the name Demon Realm. After all, they were also in the Emperor Senior Realm, and their cultivation base was superb. They dared not claim to have insight into the world's secrets, but there were few things they didn't know of. But this is the first time I have heard of the term Demon Realm. The demon race and the others know about it, and they have seen scraps of records in some ancient books, which are not very detailed. Brother Yang, you mean that there are demons sealed behind the door? Fang Zhou asked with a frown. Looking at it now, I'm afraid that's exactly the case. Shen Bingru said, this ancient cave has been tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. Even if there were really strong demons who were sealed at that time, they wouldn't have survived until now, right? Yang Kai Dao. That's why only the demonic thoughts appear. The demons sealed inside are probably dead, but their remnants are still there. It's just a wisp of remnant soul, there's no need to do that. Shen Bingru squeezed out a smile, faintly feeling that Yang Kai was making a fuss too much. Regardless of whether the demons were sealed inside the bloody gate, it has been so long, even if a remnant soul shows up, it may not be a big deal. What do you know? Yang Kai shouted angrily. Shen Bingru shyly shut up. Her cultivation was higher than Yang Kai's. If she hadn't been saved by Yang Kai just now, she would probably have retorted at this moment, so it wouldn't look good to be contradicted by Yang Kai like this. Yang Kai's tone softened a bit, and said, the evil thoughts still exist, you can't take it lightly at any time, otherwise. Just as he was speaking, the black on that had been motionless all this time suddenly flew up and rushed towards Yang Kai, not sure if it was intentional or a coincidence. There was an extremely uncomfortable aura in that little evil thought, as if he had identified Yang Kai. At the same time, Yang Kai suddenly felt a burning sensation in his right eye. He immediately understood that it was not a coincidence that Mo Nian chose him, but was driven by instinct. His right eye is fused with the black pupil of a troll, and has the breath of an ancient demon. The demon is the remnant soul of a strong demon, so he will naturally be attracted. He snorted coldly, a witchcraft incantation sounded in his mouth, and raised his hand to point forward. A circle of light exploded, sweeping across the rushing black on. The mung bean-sized black on was immediately swept back like a fallen leaf under a strong wind. Yang Kai is now at the end of his strength, and the power he can display is not strong, but this ray of magic has been sealed for too long. It is just a remnant soul, and it is not powerful in itself, and it will be dwarfed by the witchcraft. Seemingly realizing that Yang Kai was not easy to mess with, the black light floated aside. The target is facing Gong Jia. Gong Jia was quite lost at the moment. He was deceived by Yang Tai, and he joined hands with him to kill many emperors in the southern region. Now Yang Tai sacrificed his body, and a demonic thought emerged from behind the door, proving that what Yang Kai said before was true. Behind the bloody gate, there is no ultimate mystery of martial arts, only Yang Tai's conspiracy. Yang Tai wanted to release all the magic thoughts sealed behind the gate, so he borrowed his attainments in the way of formation. He is the former head of the Gong family, and everything he does is closely related to the Gong family in Tianhe Valley. After today, the reputation of the Gong family has been completely ruined, and the Gong family may be in a difficult situation in the future. After realizing this, Gong Jia was disheartened. Although Yang Kai and the others had heard the exchange of demon thoughts, he didn't have much reaction. It wasn't until this moment that the magic thought floated towards him that Gong Jia made any movement. He slightly raised his hand, and a solid palm print slapped towards the magic thought. Although he is a formation master, he still has the cultivation base of Emperor Senior 2 tier. The power of this palm is not to mention the color change of the world, but it is also very impressive. At least it is stronger than the sorcery power that Yang Kai just displayed, several times. He felt that he was capable of sweeping away that demonic thought, and even killing it. But something unexpected happened. The palm print passed through the magic thought, but it had no effect on it at all. The mung bean-sized magic thought ignored the palm print and penetrated directly. Be careful, Yang Kai whispered, although Gong Jia should bear a considerable part of the responsibility for this situation, but what he encountered in the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland made him not want Gong Jia to be eroded by the demonic thoughts, so he opened his mouth to remind. Gong Jia also pulled himself together and resorted to all means. He was beaten by Shan Zhang, but despite all his efforts, he still had extraordinary strength. In an instant, several layers of impenetrable protection were laid in front of him. Haimeng passed through those protections without seeing anything, and got directly into his mind. Everyone was stunned. Gong Jia's eyes widened for a moment, and a roar came from his throat, as if he had encountered great torture. Yang Kai was also a little dumbfounded, and couldn't figure out why such a thing happened. He saw Gong Jia's protection in his eyes. Logically speaking, it was enough to resist the erosion of evil thoughts. But in fact, those didn't seem to have the slightest effect. It shouldn't be. Just when Yang Kai was very puzzled, Gong Jia suddenly roared all over his body. Violent breath escaped from the pores of his body, his hair and beard were all mad, and the broken stones in the roaring grotto rustled down. Everyone's face changed drastically, and they were nervously paying attention to Gong Jia's state. At this moment, everyone has no strength to resist. If Gong Jia goes crazy, everyone will suffer. Shen Bingru tremblingly said, Brother Yang, this is eroded by demonic thoughts, I'm going to be possessed. Yang Kai gritted his teeth and drank in a low voice. To be continued. Dash 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 dash. Dash 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 dash. Chapter 2921 Two Things. In the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland, Yang Kai has seen too many similar things. In the battlefield where the two clans are fighting, even if the demon clan who has successfully cultivated is killed, only a single magic thought can turn the barbarian into a demon, and turn against each other. The breath and remnant soul of the demon clan are extremely corrosive. What should we do now? Fang Zhou also asked. Before Yang Kai had time to speak, the screaming Gong Jia suddenly quieted down, and he suddenly raised his head, revealing a pair of dark eyes, without any white benevolence, looking terrifying. Gong, old patriarch Gong, Shen Bingru shouted tremblingly, hoping to confirm the identity of the person in front of him. Gong Jia turned a deaf ear, just tilted his head and looked at Yang Kai, revealing a look of confusion and curiosity, as if he had just woken up from a big dream, and he still had some confusion about the environment he was in. Yang Kai held his breath, secretly concentrating on his guard. Gong Jia didn't attack him, but let out a strange sound from his throat, and then walked out unsteadily. Shen Bingru, Fang Zhou, Hua Yulu and the others hurriedly moved aside. They were powerless to fight now, so they didn't dare to stand in front of them. Gong Jia was obviously eroded by the evil thoughts, because his performance at this moment is quite different from before. It seems that a new soul has settled in his body, he can't fully control his body, and even his walking posture is not normal. In the silence, only the sound of Gong Jia's footsteps was extremely ear-piercing, gradually drifting away. After waiting until the footsteps could no longer be heard, Hua Yulu and the others let out a sigh of relief like waiting for the rest of their lives. After witnessing Gong Jia's transformation with their own eyes, they no longer have any doubts about Yang Kai's previous statement about the demonic thoughts. Is the old patriarch Gong taken away? Fang Zhou looked at Yang Kai and asked. If it is like this, then things will be troublesome. After all, Gong Jia was the former head of the Gong family. Moreover, there is also the cultivation base of Emperor Zun's second-level realm. If such a person runs out, it may cause great harm to the southern territory. I don't know, but it may be more serious than seizing the house. Yang Kai looked stern. The only thing he can be sure of now is that Gong Jia has been possessed by the demon, but there is one thing he can't understand: even if Gong Jia is restless, he will not be caught by the demon. Thoughts are easily eroded. How could he be unable to resist? But I couldn't find a reasonable explanation for what I saw with my own eyes before. Thinking about it, Yang Kai was shocked, and shouted, "Magic text!" What? Hua Yulu turned to look at him. The magic text. Yang Kai looked dignified, turned his head to look at several people. "How many do you see?" Hua Yulu said, "The secret technique that Yang Tai used before. I didn't see it clearly." Yang Kai looked at the three of them, and said in a deep voice, "No matter how much you see, you'd better find a way to forget about that thing. Yang Tai's enchantment and Gong Jia's erosion may be related to it." "What do you mean?" Fang Zhou asked curiously. When Yang Tai performed that secret technique before, he observed it specially. So there are more things to see than flowers and rain. What Yang Kai said was so serious, he didn't dare to take it lightly. Shen Bingru also cast a curious look. Yang Kai Dao. Yang Tai had no chance to touch the magic thought at all before, but he was already possessed when he came here. His enchantment is very likely to be related to the ancient magic text he learned. In order to persuade Yang Tai, Gong Jia once showed him the power of that word. Gong Jia may have studied it a little bit. So, there should be some demonic nature in his body. That's why he was willing to risk the world's shame and join hands with Yang Tai to frame us. That's right, it must be so, otherwise, as the former head of the Gong family, how could Gong Jia make such a muddled choice? He has been affected by the demon nature hidden in his body, and he can't maintain his nature. And the reason why the demon can easily erode him, it's not that Gong Jia's defense is ineffective, but that the demonic nature in his body is attracting that demonic thought, and he gave up resistance unconsciously. These words, Yang Kai was half speculating and half answering. The more he talked, the more he felt that his guess was correct. The root of everything lies in that ancient rune. Half a year ago, Hua Yulu and Yang Tai Wukuangyi discovered this ancient cave. The three of them had different benefits. The ancient magic text that Yang Tai had learned was a trap, the bait. Anyone who has learned the ancient magic text will make the same choice as Yang Tai. It is precisely by relying on the true meaning of the magic text that Yang Tai can establish an inexplicable connection with the magic thoughts behind the door, and he can know what is behind the door, and he will say that opening the restriction is his task. Hua Yulu's face turned pale and her delicate body trembled. She felt that her luck was good enough. Last time she just got a small flower drum. If she learned the true meaning of the ancient magic text like Yang Tai, what happened to Yang Tai might be her current end. She was a woman who loved beauty, and she died so miserably, not to mention that there were no bones left, and even the mutilated flesh became a secret technique to break the restriction, which was simply unacceptable to her. Shen Bingru also said anxiously, "I will also be like Yang Tai, may I be possessed by a demon." She also saw the ancient rune. Yang Kai shook his head and said, "The true meaning of the magic text is not so easy to understand. Yang Tai may have received some help. It doesn't matter if you just glanced at it, but I still advise you to forget about it completely. No one knows what it is." "What is so magical about the magic text?" Several people nodded, looked at each other, and then escaped into the sea of consciousness, found the memory of the rune, and destroyed it independently. In this way, they will forget what that word looks like, and only remember that there is such a word. Destroying such memories voluntarily will cause some damage to the soul, but compared with the risk of becoming enchanted, such damage is acceptable. Yang Kai didn't do this, he kept thinking while several people destroyed their memories. After several people were weak and opened their eyes, Yang Kai said, "There should be more than one magic thought behind this door, maybe there are many more. We need to do two things now." Hearing Yang Kai say that there are more magic thoughts behind the door, several people were shocked, but it is really possible to think about it carefully. Because the restriction of the Scarlet Gate was not completely broken, it was only opened by Yang Tai's blood sacrifice before, and a magic thought ran out from it. This restriction was placed by the great power of the ancient times. Since it is closed again, it means that there are hidden dangers inside. "Which two things?" Fang Zhou asked. After all the fuss before, Yang Kai faintly became the talker among the few people, and the few people didn't have any objections to his decision. The first thing is to find someone to stabilize the restriction formation here, so that no one will accidentally break in and destroy the restriction. Yang Kai raised a finger. This matter is related to the entire southern territory, and even the entire star boundary, so we must inform several major sects in the southern region to let them work together to find a way. Well, the Gong family needs to make up for their mistakes, and they are also good candidates. Gong Jia made a mistake. He was the one who caused the destruction of the restriction. The Tianhegu Gong family was duty-bound to repair the restriction, not to mention that even if Gong Jia hadn't caused trouble before, the Gong family would be the best candidate. In the southern territory, apart from the formation masters enshrined by those big sects, they are the only ones who have the most research on formations. Feng Zhou and the others nodded slightly when they heard the words, and felt that what Yang Kai said was right. Although the exploration of the ancient cave mansion was their business this time, the consequences were not something they could bear. Even Gong Jia at the second level of Emperor Zun can't resist the erosion of demonic thoughts. Once the restriction here is really broken, the southern region will be in chaos, and they may become eternal sinners at that time. So I need you to inform the Gong family of Tianhe Valley. First, tell them what happened here. Second, let them be on guard against Gong Jia. If Gong Jia returns to Tianhe Valley, Gong Jia probably won't be so stupid, but always take precautions. I'll go. Hua Yulu volunteered. Although her cultivation level is not high, she is still the lord of Baihua Palace, and her words carry certain weight. If she informs the Gong family will not take it seriously. You three go together, Yang Kai said solemnly. The three of them thought for a while and nodded. They don't know where Gong Jia is now. Maybe they are lying in ambush outside and waiting for them to surrender themselves. If the three of them work together, they will have the power to protect themselves. Then who will notify the other big sects? Feng Zhou asked in a deep voice. Without the auspices of those big sects, nothing would be possible. Even if they invite people from the Gong family, maybe Gong the family will also block the news to prevent the news from leaking out, so it is necessary to invite the powerhouses of those big sects. Yang Kai Dao. Let me introduce myself again. As he spoke, he reached out and wiped his face, revealing his original face, which was as pale as paper, without any trace of blood. My name is Yang Kai. Yang Kai. Shen Bingru frowned, and said in surprise, I heard that Qingyang Temple has a new canonized elder catching a while ago. It's me. Yang Kai nodded. Shen Bingru and Feng Zhou respected each other, clasped their fists together and said, so it's Elder Yang, it's really rude. Until this time, they did not dare to underestimate Yang Kai. To become an elder of the top sect in the southern region, even if it is only an elder of Keqing, he is definitely not an idle generation, not to mention that it is said that this Yang Kai had fought against the elders of the Star God Palace during the canonization ceremony. The elders of the Star God Palace are the three-layer mirror of Emperor Zun. How can it be easy to fight against them? The two didn't understand until this time why Yang Kai's aura was not strong, but he was amazing everywhere. It turned out that he was the elder of Qingyang Temple. I will notify the major sects. I have a way to contact the temple. After the news spreads, they will naturally pass it on to other sects. The three naturally had no objection when they heard the words. What about the second thing? Hua Yulu asked. The second thing, let's talk about it after the matter here is dealt with. Before that, I will abide by the prohibition here, so as not to kill Gong Jia. Brother Yang is thoughtful. Feng Zhou agreed. To be continued. Dash 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 dash. Dash 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 dash. Chapter 2922 Moisten things silently. Gong Jia has already been enchanted, and no one knows if he will come back to destroy the restriction. The restriction formation on the Bloody Gate has a long history, and it was destroyed by Gong Jia again before. So Yang Kai has to stay here as a precaution. This kind of thing must be done by Yang Kai, and only Yang Kai has this ability. After a brief discussion, everyone hurriedly adjusted their breath and cultivated. Although Hua Yulu and the others were not injured, being sacrificed by blood in the sovereign formation was also very exhausting. If you want to leave here and go to Tianhe Valley, you have to recover for a while. Everyone is an emperor, and they always have some precious life-saving elixirs on their bodies, and this is not the time to cherish them, so they take them out and take them. Half a day later, Hua Yulu and the others barely recovered 60 to 70% of their strength. They didn't dare to delay, and after saying goodbye to Yang Kai, they all returned according to the same route, preparing to leave this ancient cave together. Not long after, Yang Kai was the only one left in the grotto, and the surroundings were so quiet that even the sound of breathing could not be heard, only the sound of water dripping from the upside-down stone pillars, tick-tock. Although this trip to the ancient cave mansion was safe and sound, Yang Kai still trembles with fear every time he thinks of that dangerous moment. 7 arrived, and only 4 remained intact in the end. Wu Kuangyi was sacrificed by Yang Tai's blood, Yang Tai blew himself up and died, Gong Jia was eroded by evil thoughts, and the remaining 4 were also exhausted. It can be said that they were in a mess. Now that he finally had some time to recover, Yang Kai naturally raced against time. After another day passed like this, he slowly opened his eyes, silently perceived his current state, felt that it was almost ready, and then took out his elder jade plate. This is what Wen Zishan gave him during the canonization ceremony. This elder jade plate not only represents the identity of the elder of Qingyang Temple, but also has many other wonderful features. He moved Emperor Yuan slightly, and the jade plate floated in front of him in the air. Immediately, the art in his hand changed, and he kept hitting the center of the jade plate. The jade plate buzzed continuously, following Yang Kai's movements. Concealed messages were conveyed to the Qingyang Temple through the jade plate. This kind of contact method is not perfect, and it cannot explain too complicated things, and it can only be used within the same large domain due to the limitation of distance. However, it is the only means of long-distance contact in the star realm at present, and all major sects have them, which are similar with minor differences. After being so busy for a while, Yang Kai put away the jade dish, believing that Qingyang Temple had already got the news. It won't be long before someone comes to check. He continued to meditate to recover. For more than 10 days in a row, everything was safe and sound. Yang Kai's injuries gradually improved, and the wounds on his soul were also slowly recovering. Giving him a little more time, he felt that he should be able to recover as before. He didn't take it lightly, and kept a part of his mind alert to the bloody gate, and no slightest disturbance could escape his observation. On this day, Yang Kai was meditating with his eyes closed, and suddenly he felt a very strange feeling, as if he had a faint understanding of martial arts. He couldn't help but be delighted. This level of comprehension came inexplicably and without warning, but it was a rare opportunity for any warrior, so he immediately immersed himself in chasing that deep level of comprehension and artistic conception. That inexplicable feeling became clearer and clearer, as if a plate of delicious food was placed in front of you, readily available, but there was an invisible barrier across it, and only the aroma could be smelled. Can't really enter. Yang Kai was not in a hurry, and stepped steadily, slowly breaking through the obstacles in front of him. He had a hunch, if he could really understand this level of perception, then you will definitely be able to advance to the second level of Emperor Senior. He broke through to the Emperor Senior realm in the Sea of Broken Stars. Although the time is not too long, it is logically impossible for him to be promoted again, but his experience these days is too rich. What is missing is an opportunity. Now the opportunity is at hand. Of course he had to take good care of it. Time passed slowly. Yang Kai didn't know how long it had passed. It seemed to be just a moment, and it seemed to be a year and a half. At a certain moment, when he felt that the barrier suddenly became clear, a new world appeared in front of his eyes. All kinds of wonderful feelings poured into his mind from unknown corners, making him suddenly have an illusion of omnipotence. And those feelings brought him a wonderful artistic conception, which made him involuntarily want to immerse himself in it, swim in it, and pry into the mystery of the peak of martial arts. At this moment, Yang Kai's environment is very strange. He feels like he is standing in the starry sky, surrounded by stars. Each star is an elusive artistic conception, and the mystery of martial arts. It is the gateway to the ultimate step of martial arts is within his fingertips, within reach. As long as he picks up these stars, he will be able to achieve a great cause that is astonishing in the past. Yang Kai slowly stretched out his hand and touched the stars. Suddenly, a group of flames burned in the starry sky. Yang Kai frowned and stared at the flame. It didn't matter if he looked at it. He actually felt an extremely hot feeling, as if his body was being roasted on the flames, and this burning feeling became more and more intense, more and more violent, so violent that Yang Kai could hardly help it. Bear. At this moment, a sense of coolness emerged, as if a basin of cold water had been poured down, making Yang Kai feel extremely comfortable. The ups and downs of his mood made him suddenly alert, and he retracted his outstretched hand, breaking the state of deep retreat, and Yang Kai became aware of the existence of his physical body. A flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, and he instantly understood what had happened to him. This is not my epiphany, this is a trap from the magic thoughts behind the bloody gate. Everything you see is just an illusion. He didn't dare to neglect, and hurriedly shouted. The stars vibrated, and they all bloomed with light, and then gathered towards a certain place, and suddenly turned into a large character with bright rays of light, standing in the void. That font is completely different from the characters in today's star realm. It is extremely complicated, but it seems to contain a great mystery. Magic text. Yang Kai was shocked, he didn't expect himself to be so cautious, he still said, he looked away and didn't look at it, but the light from the font merged into one, as if consciously, desperately drilling into Yang Kai's mind. He insisted on branding the true meaning of that rune into Yang Kai's mind. At the critical moment, Yang Kai's state of mind calmed down unprecedentedly, and a layer of colorful brilliance suddenly bloomed on his body, covering him like a colorful robe. The light of the magic text shone, and was blocked by Kikai Shai one after another. Yang Kai sneered, and slowly withdrew from this illusion, his consciousness returning to his physical body. It went smoothly unexpectedly, without any hindrance, or in other words, the magic thought did not hinder his ability. There was light emitting from the pitch-black cave. Yang Kai took a glance and found that it was the blood-colored gate emitting light. But when his consciousness returned, the light gradually faded away, and finally disappeared. There was a cold sweat on the back, and Yang Kai was terrified. His right eye was as hot as a fire, but his mind was as cool as ice water. It was this alternation of heat and cold that woke him up and got rid of the entanglement of the rune. Yang Kai didn't know if the magic script was the one that Yang Tai used, because he didn't see it clearly at all, and the protection made by the 7-color warming spirit lotus even blocked the true meaning of the magic script from the body, without intruding at all. Thinking about it now, the reason why Yang Tai was able to gain insight into the true meaning of an ancient magic text, thus giving birth to a demonic nature, is probably the same as what he encountered just now, but Yang Tai is not as lucky as himself, and does not have such a treasure as the colorful warming lotus, so he has insight knowing the true meaning of the rune. He thought he had a chance and mastered the mysteries of martial arts, but he didn't know that it was just a bait, which eventually led to a series of tragedies. To be honest, this encounter made Yang Kai a little eye-opening. He has fought against the demons in the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland for 2 years, and he has never seen the demons have such a surreptitious ability to sneak into the night with the wind and moisten things silently. This is the first time he has encountered such a method. This is not an attack, it just makes people mistakenly think that they have gained some benefits, but in the end they go down the wrong path step by step, and in the end they cannot turn back. And after going out like this, Yang Kai also confirmed that the restriction on the blood-colored gate was indeed severely damaged, and it must be repaired and strengthened quickly, otherwise, if anyone finds here, it is very likely that the restriction will be destroyed. Magic thoughts. In the days that followed, he became even more cautious. No matter what he did, he must devote part of his attention to the changes in the Scarlet Gate, and at the same time guard against the traps set by his evil thoughts. But after one failure, the magic thought behind the door seemed to realize Yang Kai's difficulty, and there were no more abnormalities. Yang Kai's injury got better day by day, and he finally recovered. After a full month, the experts from several major sects in the southern region finally came. A reply came from the elder Jade Plate. Yang Kai quickly left the cave and went to the stone forest on the ground to meet him. At this time, Lu Island was surrounded by poisonous barriers and blocked from all sides, and it was not time for the kind of monsters that could fit together and become stronger to look for food, but after receiving Yang Kai's response, the powerhouses of several major sects still decided to break through, came to join Yang Kai. I don't know what method they used. Yang Kai, who was standing on the land island, only heard a rumbling sound, as if the sky was turned upside down, and then a mysterious light shot out from the colorful poisonous barrier, as if riding the wind and breaking the waves. The dragon boat broke through the sea of clouds and landed on the land island. Powerful auras spread out one by one, and when the light dissipated, a group of more than 20 figures appeared. Yang Kai swept his eyes and found several old acquaintances. Headed by the elder Xiao Yuyang of the Star God Palace, Gao Shueting of the Qingyang Temple, Chen Wenhao of the Heavenly Martial Holy Land, and Feng Ming of the Wuhua Palace gathered here. Among the four, except Xiao Yuyang, who was the 3rd-level emperor, the other 3 are all the 2nd-level emperor. To be continued. Dash 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 dash. Dash 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 dash. Chapter 2923 Hunting. What? It's an update today. I have something to do. I have to go out later. Comma 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 comma. The first time Yang Kai saw these people was in Fenggalan City. At that time, Gao Shueding and others were only at the first level, but they were still high above him. In the past few years, Gao Shueding was able to advance from the first level of Emperor Senior to the second level. Naturally, Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming would not be too far behind. They rushed to catch up and made further progress in recent years. In addition, there is a middle-aged man with a majestic appearance, wearing a jade belt brocade gown. He looks extraordinary, he seems to be the leader of a party, and his status is extraordinary. Behind this middle-aged man, stood a dozen or 20 warriors, all dressed uniformly, and their cultivation bases were mostly between the Emperor Senior realm and the Dao Source realm. Yang Kai only glanced at it, and vaguely understood where these people came from. Because he saw a familiar face among these warriors. Gong Wenshan. Yang Kai didn't have much friendship with him, but he had dealt with him in the Four Seasons land. I remember that this guy was quite courageous. At that time, he even dared to provoke the impermanence of the Tianwu Holy Land, and he was still unscathed after being chased and killed by the impermanence for many days. Since Gong Wenshan is here, it is clear at a glance where the largest group of people come from. Tianhe Valley Gong's family. The middle-aged man at the first level of Emperor Senior who is the leader should be the current patriarch of the Gong family, Gong Zhen. He is the leading formation master in the entire southern region, and his prestige is no less than that of the Nanman army in the northern region, and even higher to a certain extent. After all, Gong is really the head of the family, and the Nanman army is just a widow. Xiao Yuyang held a shuttle-shaped secret treasure in his hand, the brilliance flowed, and the quality was extraordinary. Presumably he used this secret treasure to force everyone in. Yang Kai had also experienced the power of the poisonous barrier before, and he was able to break through it. How could the secret treasure of poison barrier be so bad? Elder Xiao, Elder Chen, Elder Feng. Yang Kai clasped his fists in greeting one by one, and couldn't help but feel a sense of time flies in his heart. When he stood in front of these strong men back then, he had to maintain his dignity and call him senior. But now he was able to sit on an equal footing with these people. He was the last to greet Gao Shueding, who nodded slightly at him. Since they are all from his own family, there is no need to be too polite. You can cause trouble wherever you go. Xiao Yuyang had a helpless smile on his face, and saw Yang Kai again with a headache. After all, it wasn't long before Yang Kai left the Star God Palace. Even in the Star God Palace, there was something wrong with the five-color pagoda. Xiao Yuyang and other elders suspected that it had something to do with Yang Kai, but the emperor didn't say anything. They were not good. Fortunately, the problem with the five-color pagoda is not too serious, so the matter will be settled. I'm innocent. Yang Kai remained expressionless. I was just entrusted by others, and this happened, just at the right time. I don't blame you. Xiao Yuyang waved his hand. His expression became serious. We have heard Hua Yulu and the others about what happened, and we know that this time it's none of your business, and it's even thanks to you, the non-Yusida disaster was averted. Yang Kai said sternly. I am also a warrior in the southern region, and it is my duty to eliminate disasters and difficulties in the southern region. Kai. Gao Shueding sneered, obviously thinking of Yang Kai's identity as the lord of the Northern Territory High Heaven Palace. She was worried about this, and always felt that Yang Kai should not establish a sect in the Northern Territory, and being an elder in the temple is the right way. Yang Kai pretended he didn't hear it, and looked at Xiao Yuyang and said, Elder Xiao led the team here, what is he planning to do? Xiao Yuyang said, as you think, strengthen the prohibition seal, and also list this place as a forbidden area, no one can enter or leave. Yang Kai rubbed his chin and said, that's fine, but there are always some curious guys who are not afraid of death. The more forbidden the more they want to break through, for fear that they will live too long. Xiao Yuyang smiled slightly, so we have to rely on the power of Patriarch Gong. He pointed at the middle-aged man next to him. After the restrictions over there are strengthened, this piece of land island will be covered by formations, and most people will not be curious about it. We'll find the way. That would be the best. Yang Kai turned his head to look at the middle-aged man, clasped his fists and said, I have seen Patriarch Gong. Gong Zhen's face was complicated, and he replied, Elder Yang, you are too polite. I have heard about Elder Yang's name for a long time, and I just met today by fate. You really are like a dragon among men. Yang Kai responded with a smile, Patriarch Gong is absurd. Gong Zhen said, the clan elder has caused trouble to everyone. Gong Zhen hereby apologizes to Elder Yang on behalf of the Gong family. Yang Kai shook his head and said, there is no need to apologize, Patriarch Gong only needs to strengthen the seal. Gong Zhen nodded slightly, and said, although I have heard what happened once from Palace Master Yuelahua and the others, I still want to hear Elder Yang tell it again. I don't know if it is possible. It was related to the reputation of the former head of the Gong family, so he had to carefully verify it. Of course. Yang Kai stretched out his hand and said, let's talk while walking, the restriction is still deep underground. A group of people followed Yang Kai and went down. Yang Kai recounted what happened that day as he walked. Everything was detailed. With his cultivation base, it is not a problem to recall some small things. His speech speed is extremely fast, saying but it was extremely detailed, including what kind of restrictions they encountered on the way, and how everyone reacted. Everyone just listened, no one asked anything. It's just that when Yang Kai mentioned the magic text, there was a clear change in the state of mind of several emperors senior stage. They obviously also feel that this method is too unbelievable. It is just a text that contains some kind of truth, which can actually make people have a demonic nature, and even take it as their own responsibility to break the ban on the Bloody Gate, but Yang Tai's previous performance has clearly proved that up to this point. Not long after, everyone came to the grotto below. Yang Kai waved his hand and cast a witchcraft, emitting light to illuminate the grotto, pointing to the front and saying, this is the gate to seal the magic thoughts. Everyone's expressions were stunned, and they looked forward. Yang Tai and Wu Kuangyi died in front of the door. The blood, water, and flesh were not cleaned up. It wasn't Yang Kai's laziness, they just stayed there on purpose, but what everyone sees now is only dry corpses on the ground, without any trace of blood. All the blood has been absorbed by the gate. Another thing I want to tell you is that when I was guarding and meditating here, the magic thought inside the door once tried to burn a magic text into my mind. Fortunately, I was alert early and got out in time, otherwise I'm afraid I will fall to the same end as Yang Tai. Everyone was shocked when they heard the words. Gao Shueding hurriedly said, are you sure you're fine? Her beautiful eyes showed worry and nervousness, and her concern was palpable. Very sure. Yang Kai responded positively. Xiao Yuyang looked serious, and said, in this way, your previous speculation is correct. There is more than one evil thought behind this door, I'm afraid there are more. Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders and said, whether there is or not, this place must be completely sealed. That's why we're here. Xiao Yuyang turned his head to look at Gong Zhen and said, the next thing is going to be troublesome to Patriarch Gong. Gong Zhen clasped his fists and said, the Gong family is duty-bound. While speaking, he floated forward. Shi Shiren came to stand in front of the gate, and began to investigate the situation of the restriction with a surge of spiritual thoughts. Xiao Yuyang and others focused their attention on vigilance, ready to guard against sudden danger at any time. After a while, Gong Zhen said, the situation is okay. Although the restriction has a long history, I'm afraid this was expected when the ancient gate was arranged, so there is a self-repairing formation. As long as it is carefully reinforced, there will be no major problems. Quote. Hearing what he said, everyone relaxed. Gong Zhen continued. It will take a few days for me to come up with a plan, and during this period, I will have to thank you for your protection. Xiao Yuyang said, Patriarch Gong, don't worry, I will always stay here. Gong Zhen nodded slightly, walked to the side and found a clean place to sit cross-legged, then took out many weird things from his space ring, as if he was going to deduce something. Xiao Yuyang turned his head to look at Yang Kai. Gong Jia was eroded by the demonic thoughts and escaped. This is a big trouble, it needs to be solved thoroughly, otherwise there will be endless troubles. What good way do you have? Yang Kai grinned. I can track his location. Xiao Yuyang's eyes lit up. It is indeed right to come to you first, it seems that you have been prepared for a long time. Yang Kai Dao. I hope he didn't find out. As early as when Gong Jia was in the devil and left, Yang Kai was already making plans to secretly leave a hidden mark on him. At that time, Gong Jia's consciousness was confused and it was impossible to pay attention to it, so Yang Kai was very nervous. Easy to get. At that time, Yang Kai told Hua Yulu and others that there were two things that needed to be dealt with, and the second thing was to hunt down and kill Gong Jia. It's just that those three people don't have this ability, so Yang Kai didn't say anything, he can only wait here for the arrival of the strong. I'm guarding this place, and I'll leave the matter of Gong Jia to you. Xiao Yuyang glanced at several second-level emperors. Chen Wenhao said, Elder Xiao, don't worry, he will live up to his trust. A few of them followed together, firstly to see the restriction on the Bloody Gate, secondly to hunt down and kill Gong Jia, originally wanted to get some useful clues from Yang Kai, but unexpectedly Yang Kai could track it down Gong Jia's position, so things will be easier to handle. The three Emperor Zun two layers teamed up. Even if Gong Jia had the same cultivation base, he would never be an opponent, not to mention, Yang Kai is now back to the peak, and he alone is enough to solve Gong Jia. It's not too late, let's go now. Xiao Yuyang ordered. It has been more than a month, and no one knows where Gong Jia is now. If it is delayed for too long, maybe the imprint left by Yang Kai will lose its effect or be discovered by him. A few people said no more, turned around and left. Gong Zhen, who was deducing over there, suddenly said, "If possible, I hope you can bring back the body of the old patriarch." He didn't ask everyone to bypass Gong Jia for his life, because he knew that he was eroded by the evil thoughts. Even if he survived, Gong Jia would not be Gong Jia anymore. At home, Gong Zhen couldn't help but sigh. Dash 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 dash. Dash 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 dash. Chapter 2924 Don't Eat Toast. Broadcast follow, starting reading, and get first-hand news about the 515 red envelopes. Students who haven't snatched red envelopes after the Chinese New Year can show their skills this time. Open black lens bracket, no pop-up window, close black lens bracket. The sky was bright and cloudless, and under the blue sky, a faint light flashed away. It was the light of a flying secret treasure, but the speed was too fast for ordinary people to notice. The secret treasure is Yang Kai's flowing cloud shuttle. This flying emperor treasure made by Huyu has excellent performance. Although the internal space is not large, it is no problem to accommodate 4 people. Yang Kai opened the control restriction, and the 4 of them took turns to control, rushing at full speed, relying on Yang Kai's faint sense of the imprint, tracking Gong Jia's whereabouts. Gong Jia was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. It had been a month since the 4 of them had left the ancient cave, but they hadn't been able to see Gong Jia's face, and the longer the time, the weaker the impression of that mark became. If you delay like this, I'm afraid you will really lose it. Yang Kai was very anxious about this, and at a certain moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. Gao Shueting, who was controlling Lu Yunshuo, looked towards him as if aware of it, and asked, "It's broken again?" Yang Kai nodded slightly, showing a hint of helplessness. In the first half a month, although his connection with the imprint was weak, it has continued, but in the past half month, that connection has disappeared from time to time, would be interrupted, causing him to lose track of the track. At that time, although Gong Jia was confused and couldn't detect Yang Kai's hands and feet, Yang Kai didn't dare to be too careless, so the imprint left on him was not too strong, and he couldn't sense it at too far away. If you know all kinds of wonders of space supernatural powers, otherwise there is no way to track them. Do you think Gong Jia has noticed something? He also has the 2nd level of Emperor Senior. Gao Shueting asked with a frown. Yang Kai Dao. Whether he notices it or not, we should all be thankful that he didn't take advantage of the situation to make trouble. Although Gong Jia has been running away for 2 months, he has not done anything to harm sentient beings so far. He is just going around in circles, looking for something and avoiding something. No one knew if it was his instinctive reaction, or if he had regained consciousness, or be taken away by the evil thoughts. No one knows his current situation, and only when he actually meets can he see clearly. Feng Ming snorted coldly. Since he has fallen into a demon, the world is vast, but there is no place for him to hide. He can always be found. Chen Wenhao suddenly asked, "Do you two still remember what happened in Fenggalan City back then?" Gao Shueting and Feng Ming both nodded when they heard the words, "Of course I remember." Chen Wenhao sighed. After that incident, Mr. Chen went back to the Holy Land to look up many classics, and found that similar situations rarely occurred in history, but these situations seem to have happened frequently in recent years. So what? Feng Ming didn't know why he suddenly mentioned this. The catastrophe is about to begin. Chen Wenhao said in a deep voice. Although similar things rarely happened in the long time ago, even if they happened, the records are only fragmentary and not very detailed, but once this kind of thing happens, it is a sign, a bad sign. The other 3 were slightly taken aback by what he said. Feng Ming said with a smile, "Even if it's true, it's not my turn to worry about it. If the sky falls, there will be someone taller to support it." Gao Shueting and Chen Wenhao were non-committal about his easygoing attitude. Feng Ming changed the subject, rubbed his chin and said, "Speaking of which, the old man is very curious, what does Gong Jia look like after being enchanted? Is there any similarity with the guy the 3 of us met outside Fenggalan City?" Back then, there were many suspicious things about what happened back then. Chen Wenhao frowned. Gao Shueding also nodded in agreement. Back then, the three of them fought a monster outside Fenggalan City, and were inexplicably dragged into a dark environment. After regaining their sanity, the enemy had disappeared, and they were unharmed. Just like the monster, it's like letting them go on purpose. No one could tell what was going on. After the three of them returned to the sect, they also carried out careful inspections to make sure that there was nothing wrong with them, but even so, after so many years, the three of them still have fresh memories of what happened back then. Listening to them mentioning the past, Yang Kai closed his eyes silently, trying to track down Gong Jia's whereabouts while controlling Lu Yunshuo to fly. So another day later, Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, "I found it." "Where is it?" Gao Shueding and the others opened their eyes and asked at the same time. Yang Kai pointed his hand, 3,000 miles away. Feng Ming's eyes lit up when he heard the words, "It's so close, now let's see where he is going." 3,000 miles, for ordinary people, may not be able to travel so far in a lifetime, but for a few Emperor Senior Realm, it is a matter of at most a moment. Everyone followed Gong Jia for a month. Never been so close to him. So when they heard the news, they all cheered up. After a while, Lu Yunshuo flew to the place. Lu Yunshuo paused, and four figures appeared from the air. Without intentionally hiding the aura, the vast sea-like imperial prestige filled the void, making all the space tremble. This is a small mountain peak, not more than 1,000 feet high. There are many pavilions and buildings on the peak. Although the scenery is good, the aura of heaven and earth is not strong. Yang Kai swept his eyes, and understood that the earth veins here are not very good. They are a kind of extremely scattered earth veins. Such earth veins, it is impossible for sects and families with a little bit of background to look at them. Only those who have no background backing on the mountain, only those who practice alone will choose it as a place to stay. But looking at the situation on that mountain peak, it shows that there is a small sect standing here. There are about 50 or 60 people, and the strongest one only exudes the aura of the Void King realm. Looking at the entire southern region, such a person is inconspicuous even if it is placed in a city. This place is remote and inaccessible, and there are few. The strongest disciples of this small sect saw was just a martial artist at the first level of Daoyuan, and even passing by here by chance, they were shocked as heavenly beings. Today, 4 Emperor Senior realms suddenly descended, and all of them were powerful figures in the top sects of the southern region. They don't have very high eyesight, and they can't tell that the 4 strong men in the sky are all the legendary Emperor Senior realm, but the almost suffocating coercion makes them understand that each of these 4 people has the ability to kill them at will. On the mountain peak, in the houses, and in the forest path, 50 or 60 warriors with varying levels of cultivation trembled, looking up with pale eyes in horror. They are like a group of ants, standing in front of an elephant. The elephant has raised its foot. They can only secretly pray that that foot will not step on them. There is no other way. Yang Kai and the others had a panoramic view of the situation of these warriors, and the 4 of them dispersed as soon as they appeared, presenting a situation of encirclement from all sides, covering the entire mountain. Feng Ming said in a clear voice, "This seat is Feng Ming, the elder of Wuhua Hall, and he joined forces with a few colleagues to chase down the evil spirits. He has no malice towards you and the others. Stand still and don't move around. I will protect your lives. If you dare not be obedient, live and die at your own risk." With his status, it is kind of him to be able to remind these many warriors who have not even reached the Void Return realm, so he will not say anything more after speaking. Those warriors naturally didn't dare to move after hearing the words. In fact, even if Feng Ming didn't tell them, they couldn't move. In front of Dewey, they seemed to be imprisoned by an invisible layer. They only felt stiff and their thinking stopped. All that was left was horror and horror. The 4 emperors looked at each other across the air, and each sacrificed their emperor's treasure. Chen Wenhao entered the Dao with a sword, and his sword skills are perfect. With a sword in his hand, he has awe-inspiring aura. The name of the sword is Water Flow, and the brilliance flows. I have followed Chen Wenhao for thousands of years. One person and one sword have already united their minds. Gao Shueding sacrificed her own Dibao Lai sunglasses. The mirror surface is simple and unadorned, and it doesn't look like a big name, but it is the Dibao of her life. With a wild goose thunder spear in hand, Feng Ming's seemingly old body suddenly rose a lot, and there was a courageous spirit all over his body, which was even more aggressive than many young people. Yang Kai carried 1,000,000 swords in his hand, and compared with Chen Wenhao's water flow sword, the wide long sword was simply not up to the mark. But Chen Wenhao still took a look at Bai Baijian. As an emperor who entered the Dao with a sword, he intuitively noticed the power of Bai Baijian. With the 4 emperors in formation, Feng Ming rushed to the largest building on the mountain below and shouted, "Gong Jia, show up, you are desperate." After coming here, he didn't need Yang Kai to remind him, he had already noticed a trace of obvious energy fluctuations. That energy fluctuations were closely connected with Yang Kai's aura. Obviously it was from Yang Kai's hand, it was Yang Kai who sent it to Gong Jia before. Imprint. The imprint is here, so naturally Gong Jia is also here. There was a loud shout, but no one answered. Feng Ming shook his spear, and said with a sneer, "I don't want to eat the toast, I want to leave you as a dead body. Since you are so stubborn, then don't blame the old man for not being sympathetic." When the words fell, a cold light suddenly appeared, and then the spear shot out like a dragon. There is no too brilliant light. Feng Ming's spear is extremely simple. The disciples of those small sects can't perceive too much mystery, but the other 3 Emperor Senior Realm can appreciate Feng Ming's power. He condensed all his strength into one point, without leaking the slightest bit. The impact of the guns wiped out the barrier of space, and the mountain trembled violently, as if the earth had collapsed, and then the building shattered into pieces, turning into a piece of ashes. At this moment, Feng Ming frowned, as if he had discovered something. Yang Kai also hurriedly shouted, "Elder Feng, be merciful." Feng Ming shook his hand. 80% of the blasting force dissipated in an instant, and he guided the remaining 20% of the force aside. After a while of rumbling, the building collapsed, revealing a half-grown old man shaking like chaff and stunned. The half-grown old man was in a mess, his face was as pale as paper, standing alone among the ruins, covered in dust. P.S. Children's shoes who are chasing updates, do you still have free appreciation tickets and starting coins? The countdown to the 515 red envelope list is coming. I'm here to ask for more tickets and appreciation tickets. To be continued. Dash 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 dash. Dash 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 dash. Chapter 2925 The Golden Cicada Escapes Its Shell. Broadcast follow, starting reading, and get first-hand news about the 515 red envelopes. Students who haven't snatched red envelopes after the Chinese New Year can show their skills this time. E-novel. The half-aged old man's cultivation is not high, only the Void King's 3rd layer realm. Obviously his aptitude is not good, his cultivation has reached the end of this level, and it is impossible to make any progress in his lifetime. At this moment, on the mountain where the building collapsed, there was no one else on the mountain except him. And the breath of imprint that everyone sensed came from him. Feng Ming frowned, and instantly understood the truth, and said in a low voice, "The golden cicada escapes its shell." Yang Kai also sighed. "I'm careless, it seems that Gong Jia is in good condition." The mark he put on Gong Jia was transferred to the half-old man, guiding the 4 of them in a wrong direction. The mark could not be transferred for no reason, it could only be Gong Jia's hands and feet. And Gong Jia can do this kind of thing without Yang Kai noticing, obviously no longer that kind of muddle-headed state. Either he regained his sanity, or he was perfectly integrated with his body after being taken away by the evil thoughts, neither of which was what everyone expected to see. Several people put away their emperor treasure one after another. The half-grown old man standing in the ruins was frightened out of his wits, and at this moment he cried out sadly, "The little old man has seen a few adults go around, forgive me." He didn't know what Yang Kai and others were doing here, but he knew that these 4 people were not something he could resist, especially the old man who claimed to be the elder of Wuhua Palace, Feng Ming. He naturally knows where the Wuhua Palace is. It is one of the top sects in the Southern Territory. His small sect is not even qualified to look up to others. Go for the killer move, I'm afraid I have no bones left now. He couldn't figure out where he had provoked Wuodian, and he had attracted such a powerful guy. Fear and panic made him unable to think. I can only ask for forgiveness. Don't panic, old man. Yang Kai smiled slightly at the old man, his spiritual mind surged, and he quietly exerted some power of spiritual consciousness to appease his frightened emotions. I didn't come here to embarrass you. I just tracked down a murderer. I never thought there would be some misunderstandings. The murderer. The old man was comforted, and he really calmed down a lot, and his mood was no longer as flustered as before. Exactly. Yang Kai looked serious. Stretch out your hand a little in front of you. When the Emperor Yuan is surging, an image appears in front of you. It is the appearance of Gong Jia. This is the person. The old man has seen this person recently. Since the imprint has been transferred to the half-old man, it means that Gongjia has been here at least once. Now that the mark is gone, how to trace Gongjia has become a problem, and this half-old man may be the only clue. Yang Kai naturally couldn't let it go easily. It's him. The old man was startled when he saw Gongjia's appearance. Yang Kai said, "You have seen it?" The old man said, "I thought I was dreaming. Yesterday when the little old man was meditating and practicing, he seemed to have seen this person, but when I checked carefully, he disappeared again. I thought that's an illusion." Feng Ming said in a deep voice, "I want to see your memory." When the words fell, he couldn't help but grab the half-grown old man with one hand, and the half-grown old man let out an exclamation and came in front of Feng Ming involuntarily. He was terrified. Feng Ming shot at him just now, and his attitude was not very friendly. He thought he was about to encounter something unexpected, so he resisted in a panic, but in front of Emperor Senior Realm, what waves could he, this Void King Realm, make, and he was subdued in an instant. Can't even move a finger. Feng Ming pointed at his forehead, obviously wanting to spy on this person's memory from yesterday. At this moment, Yang Kai suddenly felt a warning sign, and shouted, "Elder Feng, be careful." Feng Ming was stunned for a moment, and the half-grown old man caught in front of him suddenly swelled up, and the power in his body became chaotic and violent. The half-aged old man obviously didn't know what happened, he was at a loss for a while, his face was full of bewilderment. With a sound of hitting the ground, the half-grown old man exploded directly. And in the flesh and blood, a little black glow shot towards Feng Ming who was close at hand. Although Feng Ming is at the second level of Emperor Senior, he was a little caught off guard by such a sudden change. He was desperately trying to check the memory of the half-old man just now, but he didn't expect that he would be there in the next moment. It exploded in front of my eyes, and an inexplicable thing flew out of it. The black light was not big, but Feng Ming's field of vision seemed to be completely filled, and he could no longer see anything. At the same time, there was a vague murmur in his ears, which made him shaken. Defense wide open. Suppressing demons. Yang Kai let out a low shout, a ray of witchcraft headed towards Feng Ming, and dangerously stopped Feng Ming in front of him. The black light was touched by the witchcraft, bounced away, and turned to rush towards Gao Shueding. The sun mirror floated high behind Gao Shueding, emitting a dazzling light, like a scorching sun. Gao Shueding looked solemn, and the formulas in her hands changed. A beam of light came down from the sun mirror and directly covered the black light. The beam of light seems to have a strong restraining power, the black light is bound in it and rushes left and right, and can't get rid of it for a while, and under the power of the blazing sun mirror, there are signs of melting and there are traces of black light in the air. Gas. 3,000 swords are entangled with silk. Chen Wenhao pointed at the water-flowing sword, and the sword light of thin and weak hairs shot out, pierced into the light, and turned into layers of imprisonment to restrain the struggling black light pack. With the combined efforts of Chen Wenhao and Gao Shueding, they finally subdued the black light. This is the magic thought. Feng Ming wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, feeling a little lingering. If Yang Kai hadn't reacted quickly and used a secret technique to block him, I'm afraid he would have been eroded by the demonic thoughts. He didn't know if he could block the evil thoughts, but Gongjia's lesson from the past was there. If the evil thoughts were really that strong, he might not be able to get rid of them. A group of 4 people came to chase and kill Gongjia, and never wanted to be tricked by a small trick, and almost failed to succeed, which made Feng Ming's face extremely ugly. This is not a complete magic thought. Yang Kai frowned, carefully observed the imprisoned black glow, and judged. It was divided by Gongjia. Gongjia knew that we were chasing him, so he deliberately there's a trap here. Magic thoughts can still be divided. Feng Ming was startled. The expressions of Chen Wenhao and Gao Shueding also turned solemn. If this is the case, then the problem is more serious than imagined. They all thought that they just need to find Gongjia and kill him. It's useless to kill Gongjia, because no one knows how much he divided his magic thoughts and where he hid them. Among the people present, only Yang Kai had directly confronted Demon Yen, so everyone turned their eyes to him to see what he thought. Judging from the information we have now, the magic thoughts can indeed be divided. As soon as these words came out, the hearts of the other 3 sank to the bottom of the valley. However, Yang Kai changed the subject. It should not be unlimited. This is half of the magic thought. It may only be divided into 2 parts, and there should be some price to pay. Even so, it's quite tricky. Chen Wenhao frowned. First kill this evil thought. Feng Ming suffered a loss once, and he is more afraid of this thing than anyone else. Gao Shueding heard the words and wanted to increase the power of strong sunglasses. No matter how weird the evil thoughts are, they can always be eliminated. The current situation has proved this point. The bound magic thoughts melted away. Wait, Yang Kai raised his hand to stop him. Gong Jia has already disappeared. If we want to track him down, we can only start with this halfway of magic thought. If we destroy it, I'm afraid we will lose the clue. Feng Ming nodded and said, "You're right. Gong Jia expects to use this trick to catch us by surprise, and even make one of us bewitched, but he doesn't want to leave an opening. It's really clever but was mistaken by cleverness." Chen Wenhao said, "Although that's the case, how can we track Gong Jia through this magic thought? Who dares to contact it casually?" The magic thought was too weird, and no one in the Emperor Senior realm present had the guts to have a direct contact with it, but if they didn't do so, it would be impossible to track down Gong Jia's whereabouts. Yang Kai said softly, "If you believe in me, leave it to me." Gao Shueding said in amazement, "You? What do you want to do?" Yang Kai smiled and said, "Senior Sister Gao, don't worry, since I can resist the erosion of the magic text in the cave, I can naturally resist the temptation of this mere halfway of magic." "Really, is it okay?" Gao Shueding showed a worried look. It's not that she doesn't believe in Yang Kai's strength, but no one dares to guarantee this matter. If Yang Kai is eroded by demonic thoughts, then it will be called Gong Jia's intention. "Are you sure?" Chen Wenhao also looked at Yang Kai seriously. Although Feng Ming didn't say anything, he obviously meant the same thing. Yang Kai Dao, 70% is always there, and, don't there be 3 guardians for me? Chen Wenhao nodded and said, "If it is 70%, this method is feasible." Gao Shueding stared at him and said, "You think it's okay, why don't you try it?" Chen Wenhao coughed dryly and said, "I'm not sure, I can't try. If one wants to track down Gong Jia's whereabouts through this halfway of evil thoughts, one must have in-depth contact with it, and even pry into its inner being." What a joke. Destroy it. Gao Shueding was ready to do it while speaking. She was not willing to see Yang Kai take risks, even though Yang Kai said that he was 70% sure, but what if he encountered the remaining 30%? Instead of letting Yang Kai take the risk to do this, it is better to kill the chaotic mahjong and destroy the magic thoughts. Although Gong Jia's trace is lost, it does not mean that he cannot be tracked down. At worst, the warriors of the entire southern region will act together. When the time comes, Gong Jia has nothing to hide no matter how well he hides. P.S. Children's Shoes who are chasing updates, do you still have free appreciation tickets and starting coins? The countdown to the 515 red envelope list is coming. I'm here to ask for more tickets and appreciation tickets. To be continued. Chapter 2926 Lingfeng and the Dog. Latest broadcast tomorrow is 515, the anniversary of the starting point, and the day with the most benefits. In addition to the gift bags and school bags, this time, 515 red packet flip, must be watched. There is no reason not to grab the red envelopes, set the alarm clock. Gao Shueding was about to destroy half of the demonic thoughts while speaking, but Yang Kai had already flashed to the front of the demonic thoughts, stretched out his hand into the light of the blazing sun mirror, and grabbed the demonic thoughts right away. With "Junior brother, you," Gao Shueding turned pale. Yang Kai grinned at her. "Don't worry, nothing will happen, please trouble me to protect me." Others avoided this evil thought, but Yang Kai was not afraid. The experience he had experienced in the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland for several years made him understand that a mere evil thought could not do anything to him, because he also sealed an extremely pure spirit in his body. Ancient Mochi, and even an ancient demon black pupil, the so-called barefoot is not afraid of wearing shoes, probably this is the reason. But this matter can't be explained clearly, so we can only talk about it first. The matter has come to this point. Gao Shueding has been unable to stop it, and said in a condensed voice, "Be careful, if something is wrong, let go immediately." "I remember." Yang Kai nodded. He sat cross-legged in the void, closed his eyes, and communicated with the half of the magic thoughts with his spiritual thoughts, hoping to spy on Gong Jia's whereabouts. Chen Wenhao, Gao Shueding and Feng Ming formed a triangle and surrounded him. Gao Shueding stared at Yang Kai's figure with a pair of beautiful eyes. "Loom over." Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming looked at each other, and they both saw a hint of admiration in each other's eyes. Without him, the two of them would not have the guts to do such a thing in the face of such a strange evil, but the strength of the group, the lowest Yang Kai took the risk. This is admirable. It was also at this moment that the two of them had a feeling that someone from generation to generation could have cultivated to the second level of Emperor Senior realm. Aptitude and savvy are naturally the top choices, and they were leaders when they were young. He is a leader among the younger generation, full of vigor and determination, just like Yongkai at this moment. The times are changing, but what remains the same is the endless stream of brilliant talents. The surrounding area was very quiet, and the dozens of warriors from that small sect did not dare to move even now. They were scattered in every corner of the mountain, watching their own suzerain explode to death inexplicably with their own eyes. Trembling and fear had penetrated deep into his bones. Looking at the four people in the sky was like looking up at a god, and he couldn't even think of revenge for his suzerain. They didn't know that the death of their suzerain had nothing to do with Yongkai and others. They thought that the suzerain was killed by that guy named Feng Ming. They only felt that these strong men from the big sect were more disgusting and lacking in humanity. It was so dark that Yongkai seemed to be walking in a place of nothingness and darkness. He couldn't see any light around him, he couldn't hear any sound, and he couldn't feel even a little thing. He is using his mind and spirit to communicate the halfway of magic. Tracing back to the source, to explore the whereabouts of the other half of the magic. As long as you find the other half of the magic, you can find Gongjia. The progress is not too smooth. This is the first time Yang has done this kind of thing. He has no experience, everything has to rely on his own groping. He explored in this boundless darkness for a long time before he changed his strategy and separated a part of his mind to perceive the outside world. This time it finally had an effect. In the dark, Yongkai felt that there was a continuous and chaotic connection between this halfway of magic and something, and he continued to explore along this weak connection. The darkness slowly changed. Something seemed to appear in front of the field of vision, but it was too blurry. No matter how I look at it, I can't see clearly. Yongkai urged the power of the soul more and more fiercely, and even accepted the halfway of magic into his sea of knowledge. Wash it with the power of the soul, washing away all its disguise. Slowly, things in that vision became clear. It seems to be a mountain peak, a lonely mountain peak. The scenery on the mountain is beautiful and pleasant, and the aura of heaven and earth seems to be extremely good. Yongkai suddenly felt that this mountain was a bit familiar, and he always felt like he had seen it somewhere, but because everything in his vision was not very clear, he didn't dare to confirm where it was for a while. This is what he has seen through the ubiquitous connection between the halfway magic thoughts, and he perceives the location of Gongjia, so as long as he can confirm the location of this mountain, he can determine the location of Gongjia. He once again increased the surge of divine soul power. Now I saw something more. There was a figure on the mountain peak. The figure was somewhat similar to Gongjia, standing quietly on a certain part of the mountain peak, motionless, as if dead. Yongkai's current situation is very strange, as if he is in a thick water polo. He can vaguely see some outlines of things outside the water polo, but he can't see clearly anyway, which makes him quite anxious. Suddenly, Yongkai seemed to hear some sound. The sound was the same as the image, vague and intermittent, so Yongkai couldn't grasp it. The sound came again, and Yongkai could hear it a little more clearly. It was like a dog barking constantly. Turning his field of vision, Yongkai indeed saw a puppy-like thing, barking vigorously not far from the blurry figure. After barking for a while, the little thing jumped up and bit the figure. The figure remained motionless, as if unconscious. At this moment, the figure seemed to have sensed something, raised his head suddenly, and looked in the direction of Yongkai. That sharp gaze seemed to be able to break through many obstacles, colliding with Yongkai's vision through the endless void. It was at this moment that the blurry scenery changed, and it suddenly became much clearer. Yongkai was shocked and opened his eyes suddenly, dumbfounded. "Are you okay?" Gao Shueting's palms were full of sweat. She hadn't been so nervous for so many years after she was promoted to the Emperor Senior stage, but at this moment, the words she asked were all trembling, lest Yongkai would be eroded by the evil thoughts. Yongkai shook his head, his expression a little dull. "Did you find it?" Chen Wenhao asked in a deep voice. "Spirit Sword Peak." Yongkai stared at Gao Shueting and replied softly. Gao Shueting was startled when she heard the words. "What? Spirit Sword Peak? Gongjia is in Qingyang Temple, on my Spirit Sword Peak." After Yongkai said this, he felt absurd, and always felt that what he saw just now was not real, but an illusion, but can't find any basis. Gongjia is in the Qingyang Temple. Feng Ming also widened his eyes, obviously suspicious. "This is what I saw." Yongkai stood up, cast a spell to force out the half of the magical thoughts in the sea of consciousness, and stretched out his hand to crush it. Now that he has tracked down Gongjia's whereabouts, the half of the magical thoughts are gone. It's no use anymore. Why did he go to Qingyang Temple? Feng Ming asked. I don't know. Yang Kai shook his head. Gong Jia not only went to Qingyang Temple, but also went to his own Spirit Sword Peak. Lingzhan Peak is the spirit peak that Yang Kai obtained after he became the elder of the temple. The entire Lingfeng Peak is relatively remote in the temple, but both the scenery and the spiritual energy are extremely good, and it is protected by formations. Yang Kai felt that the mountain looked familiar at first. Because of this, although he didn't stay on Lingzhan Peak for long, but it was his territory after all, how could it not be familiar? Gong Jia is the former patriarch of the Gong family, and he is very knowledgeable in the way of formations. The formation restriction on Lingzhan Peak can stop others, but it may not be able to stop Gong Jia. If it was just that, Yang Kai still felt that what he had seen before was an illusion, a means used by Gong Jia to mislead them in the wrong direction. But the last burst of barking made him confirm that Gong Jia had really gone to the Qingyang Temple, and was really on his Spirit Sword Peak. Because there is indeed a small beast on Lingzhan Peak that is completely black and looks like a puppy. Although the little beast is a bit strange, its strength is not strong. Yang Kai only saw it twice and didn't pay much attention to it. Why did Gong Jia go to Qingyang Temple? Are you looking for death? Chen Wenhao frowned. Gong Jia's strength is so strong, even if he meets the four of them, there is no possibility of surviving. Logically speaking, he should hide, yes, but he ran wherever it was dangerous, and ran into Qingyang Temple all at once. There are so many masters in the temple, how can Gong Jia survive? I can't get in touch with them. Junior brother, try. Gao Shueting didn't say a word. After learning that Gong Jia might have gone to the Qingyang Temple, she took out her elder jade plate and tried to contact her fellow disciples in the temple. What surprised her was that the elder jade plate didn't work at this time. Yang Kai heard the words and quickly took out his own elder jade plate, pouring spiritual thoughts into it. After waiting for a while, he looked at Gao Shueting, shook his head slowly and said, no reply. Although there is some distance between this place and the Qingyang Temple, it is not so far that it is impossible to contact. If any elder in the temple receives the message, he will definitely give an answer. But in fact, the two tried successively, but there was no news. Something happened to the temple. Gao Shueting's expression changed. Let's go, Feng Ming shouted, also aware of the seriousness of the problem. Yang Kai immediately sacrificed his own Lu Yunshuo, and the four of them entered in a row, and Lu Yunshuo turned into a fright and disappeared. After the four left, the disciples of the small sect who had been on tenterhooks gradually regained their senses, and they all fell to the ground, their backs covered in cold sweat. After waiting for a while, it was confirmed that the four masters had really gone away and would not come back again. The remaining dozens of people began to form gangs to fight for the position of suzerain, and the swords were facing each other, and the fight was extremely fierce for a while. Inside Lu Yunshuo, both Yang Kai and Gao Shueting's expressions were not good looking. Chen Wenhao comforted. Although I don't know what Gong Jia is going to do in the temple, he is undoubtedly throwing himself into a trap. With Palace Master Wen sitting in the temple, Gong Jia can't make any waves. Don't be impatient, maybe when we get to the place, Gong Jia has already been put to death. Gao Shueting remained worried, and just replied symbolically, I hope so. Yang Kai observed his words, vaguely realized that something was wrong, and quietly sent a voice transmission to Gao Shueting, what happened to the temple? Is there something I don't know? Gao Shueting glanced at him, and replied, Hall Master is distracted at the moment. If Gong Jia really makes trouble in the temple, the Hall Master can't do anything. P.S. 15 inches starting point, is raining red envelopes. Starting at 12 o'clock noon, grab around every hour, and a large wave of 515 red envelopes depends on luck. You all go grab it, and continue to subscribe to my chapters with the starting coins you grabbed. To be continued. Chapter 2927 Go to. Latest broadcast tomorrow is 515, the anniversary of the starting point, and the day with the most benefits. In addition to gift bags and school bags, you must watch the 515 red envelopes this time. There is no reason not to grab the red envelopes. Set the alarm clock. Then there are Senior Brother Chu and them. Yang Kai said. Gao Shueting said. Senior Brother Chu and the others are very powerful, but I'm afraid they don't know the secrets of the magic thoughts, and they are accidentally tricked. They can't be contacted at the moment, and they don't know what's going on in the temple. You said you saw Gong, it was cut on Lingzhan Peak, why is it there? I'm also curious about this. Yang Kai shook his head. There are many spirit peaks in Qingyang Temple, but Gong Jia found Lingzhan Peak. Yang Kai even wondered if he was deliberately retaliating, because he had been hindering him in the ancient cave. The comeback of the magic thought. But this is not right. If it is just revenge, it is impossible for Gong Jia to take such a big risk. Senior sister, what did you mean by saying that the palace master has no time to be distracted? Yang Kai asked. Gao Shueding pondered for a while, as if she was thinking about it, and answered after a while, since you are the elder of the temple, there is nothing I can't tell you. Remember the last time you wanted to use the magic mirror but I blocked you? Of course I remember. What does this have to do with that? Yang Kai was a little puzzled. The master of the palace has something to do with the mirror. Gao Shueding explained casually, I told you at the time that someone is using the mirror, so you can't be disturbed. Do you know who that person is? This is also where Yang Kai felt strange at the time. The Immortal Travel Mirror is regarded as the treasure of Qingyang Temple, and it is also regarded as the foundation of the temple. It is precisely because of the existence of the Divine Travel Mirror that the powerhouses in the temple generally have higher cultivation bases, at normal level. However, it is not an easy task to practice in the Immortal Mirror. Generally, disciples need to make great contributions to get a rare reward, and as an elder. Every time you enter the Immortal Travel Mirror, you have to pay 3,000 points of elder contribution, and no one is an exception. Elder contributions are relatively rare, 3,000 is not a small amount, and Yang Kai, as a newly appointed elder, naturally does not have such a thing. Gao Shueding stopped him not because the elders did not contribute enough, but because someone was using the magic mirror at that time. Although Yang Kai was curious about who this person was at that time. But because I wasn't too anxious, I didn't pursue it. But I don't want Gao Shueding to bring up this matter at this time. Who? Yang Kai frowned and asked, vaguely feeling that this person should be an incredible guy. This person is closely related to the palace master, who was raised and taught by him alone. Gao Shueding glanced at Yang Kai faintly, without directly mentioning that person's name. Yang Kai's body was shocked, and a person's appearance immediately appeared in his mind, and he suddenly realized, it turned out to be him. Gao Shueding looked at him curiously and said, you are much calmer than I imagined. Yang Kai vaguely realized something, and asked, the adult entered the immortal world, is it to separate the spirit? Gao Shueding's delicate body trembled. Looking at Yang Kai in amazement, how do you know about this? This kind of secret is something that she doesn't know very well, or because when Zigen inadvertently nagged a few words in front of her, she made some guesses, but she didn't want Yang Kai to tell the truth in one go. No one can have such a secret. Terrifying deduction ability, unless Yang Kai knew something in advance. Yang Kai smiled bitterly. The adult will become like that, and it has something to do with me. With you. Gao Shueding was even more at a loss, her beautiful eyes were full of puzzlement. She stared at Yang Kai, like a tireless student seeking knowledge in a field that she hadn't covered. Yang Kai simply told what happened in the Sea of Broken Stars. Then he said, it happened just at the right time for me to encounter that event, and it's luck to not die. It's just that the Lord seems to have some connection with another person's soul, and he has to be a twin soul. I didn't expect him to return to the temple. Yes, the immortal traveling mirror is the world of spirits. There is also Tianyan in there, and there may really be a way to separate the two spirits. So that's it. Gao Shueding suddenly realized that many things she didn't understand became clear after Yang Kai's explanation, but she never thought that this matter had something to do with Yang Kai, and Yang Kai was even more fortunate to participate in the two events. In the Battle of the Great Emperor. Although the two great emperors were not at the peak level at that time, this kind of opportunity was not something that everyone could encounter. The most important thing is that Yang Kai also played a certain role in it. If he hadn't contributed to it, I'm afraid that the adult would have died out of his wits and died together with the enemy. Although the current situation is not very good, but at least he saved his life. As long as he is alive, he can always find a way to separate the two souls. It was precisely because that person's identity was too sensitive, so it was impossible for Yang Kai to use the immortal travel mirror at that time. Gao Shueding continued. It seems that the progress over there is not going well, so the hall master also went to help, and now the hall master's spirit is in the mirror, and he knows nothing about the outside world, so if Gong Jia is really doing evil in the temple, the hall master the Lord is unaware. So that's it. Yang Kai nodded, knowing Gao Shueding's worry. He finished the voice transmission with Gao Shueding's spiritual thoughts, opened his eyes and said, I want to use my spatial powers, if you feel any discomfort, please don't resist. Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming nodded slightly when they heard the words, staring at Yang Kai curiously. Although I have long heard that Yang Kai is proficient in the power of space law like the one on Spirit Beast Island, I have never seen it with my own eyes. This kind of mysterious power is not something you can see casually, especially if you are as accomplished as Yang Kai. Very deep existence. So they all watched with relish and waited quietly. The power of space law rose up and down, enveloping the entire Luyun Shuo. This is Yang Kai's law. If there is no reminder from him before, if Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming are aware of it, they will definitely resist. But with the previous reminder, they all know what Yang Kai is going to do, so relax and don't interfere with the flow of the law. Lu Yunsuo seemed to tremble slightly. For a moment, both Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming felt extremely uncomfortable. It was a feeling of desolation and panic, as if they had suddenly come to a place where there was no sound and no light, in a world of nothingness. But this feeling is extremely short-lived, and it disappears in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Lu Yunsuo had appeared thousands of miles away. Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming looked at each other, and they both saw the shock in each other's eyes. Rumor has it that warriors who are proficient in space power are the best at escaping for their lives. Now it seems that the rumors are true. They are all at the second level of Emperor Senior, but they still can't move thousands of miles in an instant. Maybe they can do it with some powerful and special secret treasures, but they won't be as light as Yang Kai. With this supernatural power, as long as the surrounding space is not blocked, who can stop him in this big world? It's no wonder that when Emperor Hua Ying chased and killed the one from Spirit Beast Island, even though his strength was far superior, he still couldn't do what he wanted. A person who is proficient in the power of space is as slippery as a loach. If he misses a hit, it will be impossible to trace his whereabouts. Luyun Shuo vibrated continuously, and after each vibration, it would appear thousands of miles away. Several people in Seoul realized the power of the law of space more and more. At the beginning, Yang Kai's breath was long and his face was indifferent, but as time went by, he gradually began to feel overwhelmed. Teleporting with 3 Emperor Senior realms and 1 Emperor treasure, the consumption of him is also huge. But now that the situation was urgent, he didn't care too much, he just wanted to rush back to the temple first. Half a day later, he stuffed a handful of panacea into his mouth, signaled Gao Shueting to take over Lu Yunsuo's control, and then meditated and adjusted his breath. Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming could see clearly that the elixirs that Yang Kaisai imported were all Emperor elixirs, and any of them were valuable, but he chewed them like jelly beans and swallowed them whole. Even though the two had always been in high positions, this situation still made their faces twitch, and they cursed prodigals in their hearts. Then look at the Luyun Shuo where I am now. This is a flying secret treasure of Emperor treasure level, the value is immeasurable, and they don't even have it in their hands. I want to scratch my head and want to understand how this kid, who is young and has only practiced for a long time, managed to earn such a huge family fortune. Compared with him, the few of us are almost indistinguishable from turkeys. How can we have the slightest advantage in the second level of Emperor Zun? The 3 of Lu Yunsuo take turns to control, the consumption is not high, and they can maintain the peak state at any time to deal with possible dangers. After Yang Kai recovered, he used his space magic power again, and his speed increased greatly. After 3 days like this, the group of 4 finally arrived at the Qingyang Mountains. With a sweep of spiritual thoughts, there is nothing unusual about the mountain range, it looks the same as usual, and among the scattered peaks, many disciples of the temple are also performing their duties, and there is no sign of being attacked. This made Yang Kai and Gao Shueting, who rushed back in a hurry, heave a sigh of relief. Lu Yunsuo stopped in front of the protective formation, and the 4 of them walked out of the shuttle, and Gao Shueting immediately discovered something was wrong. Surprisingly, there is an inexplicable restriction on the periphery of the Guardian Array. This layer of restriction is not too strong, but it is extremely hidden. If Gao Shueting didn't know the array better, I'm afraid she wouldn't be able to distinguish it. And looking at the traces of the prohibition, it was clearly arranged only in the last few days. Yang Kai pondered for a while, took out his own elder jade plate, poured his spiritual thoughts into it, and said in a deep voice after some testing, "It was Gong Jia's hands and feet, it was this layer of restriction that blocked the connection between us and the temple." Damn guy. Gao Shueting gritted her teeth and shouted, the blazing sun mirror hung high, and a ray of blazing sun shrouded it, blasting towards the restriction. There was a bang, the earth shook and the mountains shook, and the weak restriction was immediately broken. Who dares to be here? Ah, Elder Gao, Elder Yang. Some disciples flew out from the inside, aggressively. At first sight Gao Shueding shrank immediately, and hurriedly bowed to salute. Is there anything unusual about the temple in the past few days? Gao Shueding looked at the disciple and asked. The disciple didn't dare to look at him at all. He didn't understand why she asked this question, and replied, everything is normal. Gao Shueding didn't ask any more questions, knowing that this disciple probably didn't know anything. She said eagerly, go to Lingzhan Peak. While turning around and rushing out, he poured a message into the elder's jade plate and summoned others. P.S. It's raining red envelopes from 15. Starting at 12 o'clock noon, grab around every hour, and a large wave of 515 red envelopes depends on luck. You all go grab it, and continue to subscribe to my chapters with the starting coins you grabbed. To be continued. Chapter 2928. The location of Lingzhan Peak in Qingyang Temple is remote. Yang Kai chose this on purpose, but he didn't want to be a loophole that Gong Jia would use. On the way, streamers of light flew from all over the Qingyang Temple and merged into the team. Except those who went out and retreated, the other Emperor Senior Realm Elders were all present, and Chu Ran, the Vice Master of the temple, also came. After meeting Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming, he looked at Gao Shueding and asked, what happened? He observed the situation and vaguely realized that something important had happened, otherwise Gao Shueding would never have rushed into the temple with two elders from another family, and as far as he knew, these people should be in the South Marsh. The last time Yang Kai sent a message to go back, he roughly told what happened in the South Marsh, so Chu Ran knew something about it. Gong Jia is at Lingzhan Peak. Gao Shueding replied. What? Chu Ran turned pale with shock. Gong Jia? Which Gong Jia? He couldn't believe it, and wondered if Gao Shueding had made a mistake. It's the Gong Jia that junior brother Yang mentioned before, the old patriarch of the Gong family in Tianhe Valley. Why is Gong Jia in Lingzhan Peak? Chu Ran turned to look at Youku. He was responsible for the protection of the sect and the maintenance of formations, so if Gong Jia came to the temple and entered Lingzhan Peak, it must be his dereliction of duty. Youku broke into a cold sweat. I don't know, I have never received any suspicious reports. Yang Kai Dao. Gong Jia is proficient in the way of formations. If he really wants to sneak into a sect, there is always a way. The temple has been safe and sound. The protective formation has not been fully opened, and there are loopholes in the protection. Infiltrating is also a normal thing. What we need to figure out now is why he came to the temple and why he is on my spirit sword peak. That's right, Gong Jia's move is extremely suspicious, and we don't know what his condition is now. So everyone must be careful later. Chen Wenhao nodded in agreement. Chu Ran also nodded slightly, stroking her long beard and pondering. Youku glanced at Yang Kai gratefully, and hated Gong Jia in his heart. There is one thing I want to tell you. Demonic thoughts are secretive and hard to guard against, so you must guard your mind. You must not give them an opportunity to take advantage of them. Gao Shueding sternly urged, and several elders of the Qingyang temple nodded one after another, urging secretly activate the soul secret method to strengthen one's own defense of the sea of consciousness. After half a cup of tea, the group of people finally arrived at Lingzhan Peak. There was no difference between Lingfeng and Yang Kai when they left that day, except that the Lingfeng formation was fully opened. There was only one abnormal figure sitting cross-legged on the open space on the top of the mountain, motionless. As if dead. Beside him, a small black beast was crawling, contented, with its short tail wagging a few times. When a group of people came over, it just looked up at them and didn't move much. Swipe. Nearly 10 Emperor Venerable realms were scattered, and the entire Lingzhan Peak was tightly surrounded. Gong Jia slowly opened his eyes, and when he turned his gaze, he fixed it on Yang Kai. Those dark eyes made the hearts of those who saw this scene tremble for the first time. I just feel that the eyes seem to be a bottomless pit that can swallow everything, and I am busy using my power to resist it. You guys are here, Gong Jia said softly. It seemed that he didn't have much strength, and he couldn't even speak louder. Should I call you Gong Jia, or should I call you by another name? Feng Ming sneered. Just looking at Gong Jia's current state, he didn't know whether the other party had lost himself or was taken away by that evil thought. He didn't even know if the magic thought could win over others. Although Gong Jia is a very good material, there is no way to study it now. This old man is Gong Jia of the Gong family. Gong Jia replied. Feng Ming laughed loudly. You still have the face to mention the Gong family. After this incident, the reputation of the Gong family will be ruined. You are the eternal sinner of the Gong family. Gong Jia said. Pursuing power is also a crime. If so, everyone present is a sinner. Feng Ming snorted coldly. There are 3,000 roads. The width is different, but you are walking in the wilderness. What kind of power are you pursuing? Gong Jia said indifferently. One way leads to 10,000 ways. The Great Road is the way, but the wilderness is not the way. Different ways lead to the same goal. Nonsense. Feng Mingqi's beard curled up. Gong Jia proudly said. If there is no way in the wilderness, the old man will step on a way. I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Gong Jia smiled softly. Of course a certain Gong can't do it, but there will be more people following me. Chen Wenhao sighed. Brother Gong, you are really possessed. He has some friendship with Gong Jia. Before coming here, he thought if he could find a chance to help Gong Jia, but after seeing it with his own eyes, he knew that it was impossible. Nian may not have the ability to win. However, Gong Jia was possessed by a demon, and his thoughts were paranoid and rampant. It was the demonic thoughts that invaded his body that affected his mentality and made him completely different from before. Such a person is very dangerous, and no one knows that he will do something. Chen Wenhao silently gave up his plan to help him. Enchanted, Gong Jia smiled. I just found a suitable path. That's not your own way. Yang Kai said in a deep voice. Gong Jia looked at him. Are you walking your own path? The path you are walking is also stepped on by predecessors. Who can prove that this path is correct? In my opinion, you are just picking up the wisdom of others. Yang Kai said solemnly. Maybe we are following the path of our predecessors, but we will try our best to step out of our own heights. You, old patriarch Gong, are different. Your current path deviates from the main road, and you will never reach the end. You surrender under the magic thought, you will become its slave. I don't know which sentence stimulated Gong Jia. His face suddenly became gloomy, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and he said coldly, ridiculous, this old man feels very good now, who can enslave this old man? Yang Kai pondered for a while, decided not to tangle with him on this issue, and asked, please tell me, why did the old patriarch Gong take a huge risk to come to Qingyang Temple? He also came to Lingjian Peak. What is the attraction here? Is it your place? Gong Jia smiled slightly, without saying a word, appearing to be unfathomable. Yang Kai Dao, it seems that there is indeed something that attracts you here. There are things related to the demon race here. Could it be that there are some ancient demon relics? Oh, Gong Jia looked at Yang Kai with a little surprise. You actually know the ancient demon. Yang Kai smiled brightly. I may know more than you. No wonder. Gong Jia looked at Yang Kai with great interest, as if he had discovered something. No wonder I feel that you are a little different, so you are the same as the old man. Yang Kai Dao. You read it wrong, we are not the same people. Words can deceive me, but your body can't. I can feel it, it's inside your body. Gong Jia's expression suddenly became excited, and he couldn't help laughing. It's really interesting, but why do you still so obsessed with it? Yang Kai shook his head and stopped arguing with him. Gong Jia was eroded by demonic thoughts, and all kinds of ideas and thoughts were different from ordinary people, and it was meaningless to argue with him. On the other hand, Chen Wenhao and the others looked at Yang Kai suspiciously, not knowing what Gong Jia meant, especially what they were concerned about in Yang Kai's body. Gong Jia laughed and said, one day, you will find that the path I chose is the right one. I look forward to that day coming soon. Whether that day will come or not, you won't have a chance to see it anyway. Feng Ming sneered, stretched out his hand to hold it in the void. The Yanlei spear burst into cold light. The tip of the spear flicked and poked at Gong Jia, and said in a low voice, the old man is here to tell you which way is the right way. The spear is like a dragon, imposing and indomitable. This shot brought together all of Feng Ming's strength, and it dazzled the first-level Emperor senior elders of Qingyang Temple. It seemed that under this shot, everything in the world seemed to be turned into ashes. Facing Feng Ming's astonishing blow, Gong Jia did not dodge or dodge, but smiled slightly. Although the old man knows that time is short, it is impossible to catch him like this. If you want to take the old man's life, you still have to take it. Just do something real. While talking, Gong Jia reached out and grabbed the little black dog beside him, and threw it towards Feng Ming. The little black dog suffered a sudden change, obviously a little dazed, and barked a few times, probably frightened. His two round eyes were full of fright, his limbs danced wildly in midair, and he was greatly frightened. Feng Ming frowned. He didn't know what Gong Jia meant. He didn't sense any threat from this little black dog-like beast. It was an inconspicuous monster with weak strength. Feng Ming's breath can make it die suddenly. So Feng Ming didn't dodge, and the only target in his eyes was Gong Jia. As for the little black dog that was thrown out, it probably exploded into blood mist with a single sweep of the gun. Gong Shi pinched Fan Ao's Fahui, and stretched out his hand a little in the direction of the little black dog. The mutation protruded, as if it had awakened the ferocity deep in the bones, and the panic in the eyes of the little black dog disappeared suddenly, replaced by an indescribable ferocity. The eyes were full of aura of destruction, as if to the whole world is ruined. It no longer barked meaninglessly, but opened its mouth to Feng Ming. It's not big, at most a foot long, and with its mouth open, it can only fit a fist at most. But it was such a mouth that split open suddenly and became bigger than a house, completely covering up the little black dog's tiny body, as if it only had one big mouth left. This is an extremely weird scene. Everyone has been focusing on Gong Jia. Although they saw the little black dog when they came here, no one paid much attention to it. Until this time, everyone knew that the little black dog was not as harmless as it appeared on the surface. Everyone was startled. All the people who had been on guard all unleashed their magical powers and blasted towards the giant mouth. To be continued. Chapter 2929 Return to the Ruins. Nearly 10 Emperor Senior Realm people shot together, and many of them were from the second-tier Emperor Senior Realm. How spectacular was the scene! The light of various mystic arts and supernatural powers bloomed, the power of the Emperor treasure was indiscriminate, and the spiritual energy of the world was in chaos. And Feng Ming also reacted in time. A ball of light burst out from the Yanlei spear, and exploded directly in front of him. All the attacks poured into the giant mouth, but it seemed as if nothing had happened, without any reaction. He closed his big mouth and swallowed Feng Ming in one gulp. Hiss! The sound of gasping for air sounded, and everyone felt their scalps go numb. They stared at the 1-foot-long little beast in horror, almost popping their eyeballs. Yang Kai was also a little dazed. That little black dog had 2 encounters. The first time was after the elders of the Qingyang temple drank together, and the second time was when he set up the space magic circle. Except for some changes in the magic energy, there is nothing special about it. Now that I think about it, I've been mistaken. This little black dog may have inherited the blood of some strange beast, otherwise it would not be possible to have such a strange ability. A strong second-level Emperor Senior was swallowed by it, even if Feng Ming was suspected of underestimating the enemy. The ability is also enough to make people amazing. And after swallowing Feng Ming, the giant mouth also disappeared, and the little black dog returned to its original size, but still showed an extremely violent and aggressive appearance. With Feng Ming's lessons learned, how would the rest of us dare to step forward so easily? Each showed their magical powers, and blasted forward with one brain. The giant mouth reappeared, swallowing all the attacks of the Emperor Senior Realm. What the mouth is connected to seems to be a bottomless pit. No matter how many things go in, it can be swallowed up. Gong Jia hid behind the little black dog, constantly changing the seals in his hand, controlling the little black dog to fight with all the strong men. With one enemy more than one, he did not lose the wind in the slightest. Yang Kai wanted to teleport over several times, to capture the thief and capture the king, but was seen through by Gong Jia in advance and stopped him. Divine thoughts surged among the many emperors, and after some exchanges, no one recognized what kind of beast's blood this little black dog had inherited, and he had never heard of this kind of ability to devour heaven and earth. Without a clue, no one dared to be greedy for merit, lest they end up in the same fate as Feng Ming. In ancient times, there were indeed many powerful alien beasts in the world, and many holy spirits were the best among these alien beasts. Each holy spirit has the ability to move mountains and seas, but such a strange little black dog has never. There have been records. During the battle, a flash of light flashed in Yang Kai's mind, and he shouted, "Warcraft!" Gong Jia, who had been sitting upright behind the little black dog and using it as a barrier, smiled slightly. "You are really different, and you do know a lot of things. This beast has a trace of Guishu blood, although it is not pure and rich, but it is also very good. If you want to kill the old man, you have to pass it first." Return to the ruins. Everyone in the Emperor Senior Realm was shocked when they heard the words, because no one had heard of this name, and even Elder Chen Qian, who had read the history the most, was at a loss. But it is undeniable that this little black dog with a trace of Guishu's bloodline is so powerful that it is against the sky. Driven by Gong Jia, when he bites down, a hole appears in the void, and the whole world seems to be a piece of delicious food in front of it, a cake that leaves a mark after one bite, which cannot be healed for a long time. After several times, the surroundings of Lingjian Peak were full of voids. Looking around, it seemed as if a beautiful landscape painting had been accidentally sprinkled with a lot of ink. There was nothingness in the void, which contained great damage. Accidentally avoided. Only Yang Kai was in it like a fish in water, swimming freely. He leapt forward in these voids, looking for opportunities to bypass Guishu to sneak attack Gong Jia, but he was killed by Guishu a few times and had to retreat temporarily. I can't delay any longer. I'm afraid Brother Feng might be in danger. Chen Wenhao snorted, and said with a solemn expression, when the moon is full, it will lose, and when the water is full, it will overflow. Please help me. When the words fell, the Shuiliu sword in his hand suddenly radiated a dense light, and under the permeation of the Emperor's power, the whole person seemed to become an indestructible sword, with the sword's intent soaring to the sky. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth within a radius of tens of miles was swaying, and they all gathered towards the water sword. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard the words, and they each cast their spells. Gong Jia's brows were slightly wrinkled, but his hands still kept moving. Nearly 10 Emperor Senior Realm were doing their best, and the entire Qingyang Temple seemed to be in turmoil. With Lingjian Peak as the center, it was like a huge vortex appeared here, sucking all the spiritual energy from 1,000 miles around. All kinds of ferocious and surging supernatural powers were brewing and forming. The way of the sword is boundless. Chen Wenhao was the first to make a move. When the Shuiliu sword slashed forward, a wave of spiritual energy visible to the naked eye was set off. In the huge wave, hundreds of millions of sword glows kept coming and going, as if they could destroy everything that stood in the way. Things. The seal of life and death. One seal distinguishes life and death. 9 suns Kiwei, crush yin and yang, break through the universe. The years are dry and prosperous, like a shuttle like a dream. Many supernatural powers bloomed together, causing the sky to shatter, the universe turned upside down, and it was crushed forward with a bang. With so many Emperor Senior Realm teamed up to cast spells, even a third-layer Emperor Senior Realm standing in front of it can smash thousands of corpses. Gong Jia's expression became extremely serious, and the formulas in his hands changed faster. A beast's roar shook all directions. Guishu still remained unchanged, but his mouth suddenly opened, bigger than ever before, and seemed to be able to swallow half of a mountain. There was darkness in that huge mouth, as if it was connected to another world. A series of powerful attacks fell into its mouth, splashing out layers of ripples visible to the naked eye, and then disappeared. It took only 3 breaths before and after, and Guishu had devoured all the attacks. It closed its mouth at once, and its 1-foot-long body swayed in midair, as if drunk, and the surface of its body was even more discolored. A light of varying strengths and weaknesses. The hearts of nearly 10 Emperor Senior Realms sank to the bottom of the valley. Everyone's expressions were livid and ugly, and even Chen Wenhao's confidence was shaken a lot. He called everyone to make a move together because he wanted to use this method to explode Guishu. As he said before, when the moon is full, it loses, and when the water is full, it overflows. Although Guishu's ability to devour the sky and the earth is strange, it cannot swallow everything indefinitely. As long as it has a limit, everyone can defeat it. But this time, under the joint efforts, they failed to do anything about it, which was far from what was expected. Again, it can't hold on anymore. Yang Kai's roar suddenly reached everyone's ears. Suddenly, a group of people seemed to have found their backbone, and once again raised their spirits to perform their magical powers. A moment later, with a rumbling sound, Guishu's mouth opened again, but this time it was a little different from before. Guishu actually showed a look of extreme pain. This discovery made everyone look excited, and felt that the victory was already far away, not far. Sure enough, after Guishu's big mouth opened this time, it failed to swallow all the attacks, and when it swallowed half of it, it suddenly shut up, and the remaining attacks passed by, and the violent force rolled up. It was bloody, and there was not a single intact part of it. Its physical body doesn't seem to be strong, but its special supernatural power makes people a little helpless. It wobbled, its mouth was tightly closed, and its abdomen was constantly rolling, as if something was brewing in it. It's impolite to come and not to go. Everyone will take the old man's trick. Gong Jia smiled inscrutably. His right hand was erected in front of his chest, his thumb and ring finger were interlocked, and the other 3 fingers were facing upwards, a little. Everyone was a warning sign in their hearts, and an inexplicable breath of death enveloped themselves. This feeling made many people feel cold all over, and their hands and feet were cold. Guishu suddenly opened his mouth, and dazzling rays of light spewed out from its mouth, filling the air with a familiar aura. This is, Chen Wenhao exclaimed, with a stunned and horrified expression on his face. What Guishu spit out was actually the supernatural powers they used before, but this time the target was not the enemy, but their masters who used the supernatural powers. No one expected that Guishu would have such a unique ability. Not only could it swallow other people's attacks, it could even regurgitate them intact. Everyone fell into bad luck in an instant. Just now, in order to make a quick decision, a group of people used the most powerful supernatural powers, and they used them without reservation. At this time, they suddenly became a sharp weapon in the hands of the enemy. The rapid transformation made people feel at a loss. The attack came too suddenly, no one could react, everyone could only hastily condense to protect the Emperor Yuan. At the moment of crisis, Yang Kai stepped forward, and instantly came to the top of everyone's heads, with the space law crazily ups and downs, and slapped down with his palm. Without any warning, when the palm print was taken, he and the other Emperor's senior realms suddenly disappeared. A series of powerful supernatural powers hit the void, branding traces of the void visible to the naked eye, and then hit the distant peaks, causing the entire Qingyang temple to shake in an instant. He looked at the collapsed peaks in panic, not knowing what happened. Nothing like this had happened to them since the temple was founded. Hundreds of feet away, figures flashed in the void, and Yang Kai appeared leisurely with other people. Everyone had lingering fears on their faces, and Yang Kai's face was as pale as paper, and his whole body trembled violently. Forcibly leading others to perform spatial supernatural powers without the cooperation of others will consume him enormously, especially this time with too many people, all of whom are strong, and he will be hollowed out in one fell swoop. At this moment, he had to do his best to stand still. Teleport. Gong Jia's eyes sank, he tilted his head to look into the distance, his face twitched slightly, his eyes were full of resentment. He was obviously blaming Yang Kai for ruining his good deeds. If Yang Kai hadn't been a hindrance just now, the sudden attack alone would have killed more than half of the Emperor's senior stage present. But it was because of Yang Kai's existence that everyone was able to get out of trouble without any danger. Chapter 2930 Eat the Sky and Get Out of Trouble thanks to Zhuang Shang. Chapter names cannot exceed 20 characters. What the hell is this? There was no such restriction before. Thanks to the Lord Zhuang Sheng Xiaomengmi Butterfly A for rewarding 100,000 flying reds, Xiaomo is not doing well in updating, so he deserves it. Gao Shueding stretched out her hand to support Yang Kai's arm, avoiding the embarrassment of him falling. Yang Kai nodded his thanks, breathing quickly to calm the tumbling blood in his chest. Suddenly hearing too, woo-hoo, the little black dog like Guishu let out a mournful cry, as if he was enduring something extremely painful. At this moment, its appearance is incomparably miserable. I don't know what method Gong Jia used to control and stimulate the power in the blood. It has dealt with many emperors for a long time with its own power, but after reaching the limit, it seems to have no threat. When it was involved in many supernatural powers, it was even more bruised and bloody, making it unbearable to look directly at it. Gong Jia looked at it, obviously noticed something, smiled slightly and said, "Forget it, anyway, the timing is almost here." No one knew what he meant when he said this, but just as he finished speaking, Guishu suddenly retched a few times, and then his mouth swelled up, turning into that monstrous mouth. From within the giant mouth, a little bit of cold light bloomed, and each person shot out of the abyss, spinning and rushing out. The moment the light reappeared, Feng Ming was obviously in a daze. After he was swallowed in one gulp just now, the surroundings were surrounded by boundless darkness, no light, no sound. Fortunately, he didn't suffer any harm, it seemed that he was just swallowed into a strange world. Occasionally, a ray of light came out of that world, and he tried his best to fight along the light, and finally escaped from the predicament. With a sweep of his gaze, Feng Ming made a decision, and kicked Guishu, who was standing next to him retching, and kicked the little black dog away without a trace. Then the gun came out like a dragon, and hit Gong Jia who was sitting on the side. At the critical moment of life and death, Gong Jia did not dodge. He didn't even intend to resist, and his breath was always weak. He was able to fight many emperors, all relying on Guishu's strange ability, and now Guishu is useless. Even if he resists, he can't match the enraged Feng Ming. He faced the call of death calmly, as if life and death had already been broken. With a sneer, the Yanlei spear blasted into Gong Jia's chest, blasting a hole in his chest and passing through the hole. The viscera and 6 internal organs wriggling inside can be vaguely seen. Gong Jia was still laughing. it's useless to kill me alone, time will prove that my choice is right, you are all wrong. Playing tricks. Feng Ming snorted coldly. Di Yuan urged. A beast roar came from the Yanlei gun, and then Gong Jia's body exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist, leaving no bones left. A little black light flew out. Feng Ming shot it with quick eyes and quick hands. After directly piercing the black light, he breathed a sigh of relief, turned his head and asked everyone, "Are you all right?" Chen Wenhao's face was not very good looking. Shaking his head, he said, "It's okay, thanks to Elder Yang. How are you, Brother Feng?" Feng Ming shook his head and said, "I'm fine, but I still have to check carefully, that thing is too weird." "What do you mean by what Gong Jia said just now?" Gao Shueting frowned. She had been thinking about what Gong Jia said, but she couldn't quite understand it, but she was very depressed, as if something bad was about to happen. No one knew what Gong Jia meant before he died. Just when everyone was pondering, suddenly a rumbling sound came from far and near, and the earth and mountains began to shake. As if something had been broken, streaks of black light suddenly rose from somewhere in Lingjian Peak. It turned into a streamer and shot in all directions. Magic thoughts. Why are there so many magical thoughts? Gao Shueting looked up, her face paled in an instant. These streaks of black light are obviously the same as the existence of eroding Gong Jia, they are all the remaining magic thoughts, but the number is as many as hundreds or thousands, like a firework exploding in the air, flying around. How could it be? Chen Wenhao was also a little dumbfounded. It was the first time for Chu Ran and others to see the magic thoughts. Although they didn't know how powerful they were, they also felt that these things were extremely difficult to mess with, and all of them looked serious. Spirit Sword Peak is the place to seal demons. Yang Kai coughed lightly, looking extremely weak. The reason why Gong Jia came here is to break the seal and release other demonic thoughts. Gao Shueting was startled when she heard the words, and turned her head to look at him. "Junior brother, you mean that there is a place like Nanmao here?" Yang Kai Dao. "Other than that, there is no other explanation." Everyone's attention was attracted by the ancient cave in Nanjiao. No one thought that in the Lingjian Peak of Qingyang Temple, there was actually a place to seal demons. Gong Jia was eroded by the evil thoughts, and he obviously knew this, so he came here directly, using his own formation skills to break the restriction and release more evil thoughts. He didn't resist when he was dying, firstly because he couldn't resist, and secondly because it was unnecessary, because even if he died, his mission would have been completed. As he said before, there are still many people who will follow him pace. Damn it! Gao Shueting clenched her teeth. To activate the protecting sect formation, we must stop these things as soon as possible, if they are allowed to escape. Yang Kai said hurriedly, and only halfway through the words, the mutation reappeared, and there was another rumbling sound it was heard, and then a loud laughter spread into everyone's ears. Yang Kai's words stopped abruptly, and he looked in the direction of the source of the voice in astonishment. He had already heard who the voice belonged to. The laughter was somewhat restrained at first, which seemed extremely unexpected, but as time went by, it became more and more unscrupulous and rampant. A stream of light came from afar, and the laughter quickly approached. In the blink of an eye, an old man with white hair and beard, scruffy appearance, and ragged clothes appeared not far from the crowd. An indescribable pressure suddenly fell from the sky, as if a mountain was pressing on everyone's heart, making many emperors. Zunjing couldn't even breathe smoothly. Yang Kai's condition wasn't good at all, and blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. The old man stood up in the air, stopped laughing, glanced at the crowd, then fixed on Yang Kai, smiled and said, "Oh. You are here too, it's true that we never meet again in life." Yang Kai frowned tightly, always feeling that something was not quite right. The old man in front of him was no different from what he remembered, but his temperament was completely different. The old man in his memory was wise and free, but the man in front of him was full of an evil spirit. Gao Shueting looked serious, and hurriedly said, "I have seen the emperor." Chu Ran also hastily saluted. The rest of the people were taken aback, including the other elders of the temple. They knew nothing about this person, but Chu Ran and Gao Shueting both respected him as the great emperor. There are only a few great emperors in the world. Where is it sacred? Feng Ming and Chen Wenhao looked at each other, and they could see the shocked expressions in each other's eyes. Gao Shueting explained, "This is Lord Hongqian." What? The two were startled, but they didn't dare to neglect. They clasped their fists together and said, "I've seen Senior Hongqian." Among the top 10 emperors, except for those who founded the sect, the rest of them are all mysterious figures, and the gods and dragons can't see their heads and tails. Among them, the Hongqian Emperor is the most mysterious, because he is practicing the way of the world and needs to experience the world of mortals. He will incarnate into thousands, crawl and roll in the world of mortals, experience all kinds of living beings, the beggar on the street, the woodcutter on the mountain, the tortoise in the brothel, the philosophic dignitaries in the court. Maybe there is him, but no one can recognize him, maybe they can pass him by, maybe they can drink wine with him, but no one has ever really recognized his identity. Feng Ming, Chen Wenhao and others have never seen the great Emperor Hongqian, but they firmly believe in Gao Shueding's words. Because it is rumored that Qingyang Temple has a lot of relationship with Emperor Hongqian, especially the Lord Wen Zishan, who is like father and son with Emperor Hongqian. Otherwise, how could Qingyang Temple have become the top of the southern territory in just a few thousand years? One of the sects. You must know that apart from the Qingyang Temple among those top sects, the remaining ones are all long-standing existences, and the Tianwu Holy Land can even trace back tens of thousands of years of history. Duan Hongqian just smiled and turned a deaf ear to all the strong salutes, looking at Yang Kai with great interest. Gao Shueding said, "My lord, the magic thoughts have come back, and the temple is in crisis. Please help me, my lord." Yang Kai patted Gao Shueding's arm lightly, shook his head and said, "Stop talking, he's not Senior Hongqian." Gao Shueding was stunned, and immediately seemed to remember something. Her delicate body trembled, and she looked at Duan Hongqian in horror. Both Feng Ming and Chen Wenhao looked dazed, listening in a daze. Gao Shueding said that the person in front of him was the Emperor of the Red Dust. Yang Kai said no, but the old man didn't intend to refute, making them two outsiders really confused. "Wu Kuang, why did you come out? What did you do to Senior Hongqian?" Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. His gaze was cold. Duan Hongqian smiled slightly, nodded his head and said, "Since I have come out, what do you think will happen to old Hongqian? He has been swallowed by this seat. Ha 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 ha. Impossible." Yang Kai shouted. Wu Kuang's laughter came to an abrupt end, extremely abrupt, and said coldly, "The boy has only lived for a few years. How much do you know about my supernatural powers? It's ridiculous that Hongqian old man thought he could imprison me in that mirror, but don't want to fulfill this seat instead. It's really stupid, ridiculous. How can he resist this seat's heaven-eating tactics? Who in the world can resist sky-eating tactics?" Feng Ming and Chen Wenhao were startled, and they all took a few steps back. Naturally, they have heard of this famous exercise. This can be said to be the most powerful and evil exercise in the history of the star realm. It triggered the battle of the great emperor and allowed the sea of broken stars to take shape. Even now, tens of thousands of years later, the name of this exercise has made many powerful or familiar with. Chen Wenhao frowned a few times, hesitantly said, "Your Excellency, could it be?" He didn't dare to say any more, even a little afraid of the prestige that was so powerful tens of thousands of years ago. Wu Kuang proudly said, "That's right, this seat is the cheating heaven." To be continued. Chapter 2931. Gudong. The sound of swallowing saliva was heard from many emperors, and all of them put on a defensive posture. For a while, they felt sad and didn't know what to do. Gong Jia had just broken through the magic ceiling land that was hidden somewhere in Lingjian Peak, and released a lot of magic thoughts. Suddenly, another guy who claimed to be the heaven-eating emperor came. Thousands of years add up to more. "Where's Wen Zishan? What did you do to him?" Gao Shueding asked tremblingly. Wen Zishan should be assisting Emperor Hongqian to separate his soul. At this moment, Wu Kuang ran out while occupying Duan Hongqian's body, but Wen Zishan was silent, so Gao Shueding couldn't help but not worry. "HMPH, who is Wen Zishan? I crushed many bugs to death just now, and I don't know if there is him." Gao Shueding's pretty face turned pale, and she almost collapsed on the ground. Wu Kuang scanned the Emperor Prestige realm present with burning eyes, kept pointing with his fingers, and spit out numbers, 1, 2, 3. Yang Kai said with a cold face, "Wu Kuang, what are you counting?" Wu Kuang laughed loudly. "Not bad, not bad, there are actually 9 little bugs in the Emperor Prestige realm. I just got out of trouble and I'm still a little weak. You just give me some nutrition. Although your strength is not very good, you are still fat." Quote. As soon as this remark came out, everyone's face changed drastically. Everyone present has heard the prestige of the heaven-devouring art, and they also know what this evil art is all about. There are countless places where he went. Those cultivation stars in the star worlds of the lower planes all became barren and dead stars, and all life was swallowed up by him, and all life was burnt and life was extinct. So when Wu Kuang said that, everyone understood what he was planning. Already ignoring those demonic thoughts rushing out, all the Emperor's senior realms were facing a formidable enemy, secretly urging Emperor Yuan, ready to strike at any time. Wu Kuang frowned. Suddenly he grinned again. Just kidding, don't be so nervous. I just got out of trouble, and I'm in a good mood. I don't plan to kill. So I'll let you go. No one responded to him, and they didn't know what this guy meant, so they didn't dare to speak easily, for fear of offending him. Wu Kuang sneered, and seemed to find it rather boring. Turning his head to glance at the distance, he stretched out his hand to grab it in the void. His movements were calm, but when he opened his hand again, a little black light appeared on the palm of his hand. No one knows where he caught the black glow. Interesting things. Wu Kuang held many magical thoughts that the Emperor's senior realm could not avoid, but he looked at them with great interest. The dead thing said, "It is thanks to your help that I was able to get out of trouble. Well, I will give you a helping hand." When the words fell, he raised his hand and pointed somewhere. The void vibrated, as if something had been punctured. That was the news that the guardian array was broken. Just now, Chu Ran quietly ordered to open the protective array, but it was broken in a short time. The entire Qingyang temple suddenly seemed like a balloon with a hole in it, and all the evil thoughts trapped in the formation suddenly found a vent, escaped from the hole, and disappeared without a trace. Yang Kai and the others could only watch helplessly, but there was nothing they could do. Wu Kuang glanced at the crowd again, and said with a slight smile, "See you next time. I won't be merciful anymore. Be careful, the outside world is very dangerous." He laughed loudly, and his figure turned into a streamer. He rushed out along the gap in the big formation. It wasn't until he disappeared from everyone's sight that many emperors exhaled heavily. For a moment just now, they clearly sensed Wu Kuang's murderous intent. Although they didn't know why Wu Kuang changed his mind again, but the feeling of being able to recover a life is extremely fortunate. "Quick, go to the forbidden area." Gao Shueding gave a low cry, pulled herself together, and took the lead to fly over there. Chu Ran and the others were concerned about Wen Zishan's safety, so they hurriedly chased after him. Yang Kai turned around and said to Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming, "Lingjian Peak has a place to seal demons, please check it carefully." Chen Wenhao nodded and said, "Okay, leave this to me and Brother Feng, and you, be careful too." Yang Kai nodded and hurriedly chased after Gao Shueding and the others. There are several forbidden places in the Qingyang Temple, but the most important forbidden place is only a mountainside where the Divine Travel Mirror is stored. The Divine Travel Mirror is the biggest secret of the Qingyang Temple, and ordinary disciples don't even know its existence. The last time Yang Kai was able to enter it to practice, it was because of his contribution to the temple in the Land of Four Seasons, and Wen Zishan gave him an exceptional reward. He still remembers the location of that place. After chasing all the way, he finally caught up with the crowd in front of the mountain wall. Gao Shueding opened the restriction on the mountain wall and took the lead in rushing in. A group of people went all the way down the mountainside corridor, and soon arrived at the place. Looking around, everyone's heart sank, only to see that in this grotto, a middle-aged woman was leaning against the cave wall. Her mouth was filled with blood, her face was as pale as paper, and she looked seriously injured. On the stone platform not far away, there is a fugue mirror, but the fugue mirror at this moment is a bit different from the one Yang Kai saw for the first time. It is not as smooth as a mirror, and there is a trace of black air spreading on the mirror surface. "Mother-in-law." Gao Shueding rushed forward, squatted in front of the middle-aged woman, and asked nervously, "How are you?" The middle-aged woman smiled miserably, showing a smile that was uglier than crying. "I can't die, go and see the palace master, cough cough." She seemed to be seriously injured and was obviously beaten. After talking to Gao Shueding a few words, she spit out a mouthful of blood, and her expression was extremely sluggish. Gao Shueding didn't care too much, she was concerned about Wen Zishan's safety, and immediately rushed in to find Wen Zishan's body. Chu Ran stepped forward, took out a few panacea and gave it to the middle-aged woman. Yang Kai looked at the middle-aged woman's face, vaguely feeling a little familiar, hesitatingly asked, "Are you Granny Yu?" The woman raised her eyes, looked at him and said, "Hey, the boy from back then has become an elder, you guys have grown up really fast. You are really Granny Yu." Yang Kai was taken aback, Grandma has really changed a lot. He doesn't know Granny Yu's real name, he only knows that she is guarding the mirror. He remembers that when he came here with Sha Sheng and the others last time, Granny Yu appeared in front of him in the image of an old woman, Her voice was hoarse and extremely it's ugly, and later when she was practicing in the Immortal tournament, she was chased and killed by this Granny Yu. Granny Yu has mastered a force called Shenyu Kingdom in the world of Shenyu Jing, and her subordinates are as strong as clouds, and Yang Kai escaped several times at that time. Later, when I came out of the world of Shenyu Jing, I heard that Granny Yu was imprisoned by Wen Zishan, and I didn't hear about this Granny Yu after that. Now it seems that Wen Zishan has completely subdued her, guarding the Shenyu Jing. The heavy responsibility is still in her hands. This time Wu Kuang got out of trouble. Granny Yu was obviously injured by him. Gao Shueting's shout came from not far away. Everyone was shocked when they heard this, and hurriedly walked over there. In an isolated stone room, Wen Zishan's body was intact, but for some reason he was sweating profusely, as if he had suffered some kind of attack. Grandmother, the palace master is not dead, but seems to be trapped in the mirror and can't get out. What can you do? Gao Shueting asked. Yang Kai helped Granny Yu and walked over. One of them was injured, the other was exhausted, and their faces were not very good looking. Granny Yu first glanced at Wen Zishan's state, then at the change in Yu Jing's eyes, and sighed. It's not that he's trapped, it's because he can't come out by himself, and I'm afraid something happened to Shenyu World. What's going on outside? What happened? Without time to explain in detail, Yang Kai simply used his divine sense to transmit the information he knew into Granny Yu's mind. She was silent for a moment, reviewed the information, and said with a stern face, the place where the magic is sealed. The magic thought breaks the ban. From this point of view, the thing that rushed into the mirror before was the magic thought. Gao Shueting was startled. Is there a demon rushing in? Granny Yu nodded and said, yes, she rushed into the mirror, and then that adult suddenly woke up, injured me, and left here. Yang Kai said in a deep voice, that's not Lord Hongqian, that's the heaven-devouring emperor. Granny Yu narrowed her eyes when she heard this, and said softly, so that's the case. I just said how could that lord attack me for no reason. Magic thoughts can actually corrode the magic mirror. Chu Ran's face was extremely heavy, and his eyes were fixed on the magic mirror for a moment. After just a short while, the black light on the mirror's surface was a little more, and those blacks obviously exuded magic. Breath of thought. Yang Kai Dao. The immortal traveling mirror is the world of the soul, and the erosion of the magical thoughts is aimed at the soul, and the traveling world is the nourishment for its growth. What you said makes sense. You have to find a way to stop it. I don't know what happened to the hall master inside. I'll go in and have a look. Yang Kai asked Ying to say. I'll go too. Gao Shueting hurriedly expressed her opinion. Although Wen Zishan's body was intact, Gao Shueting still couldn't let go of her spirit who didn't see him. Yang Kai nodded, and said to the others, thank you, brothers and sisters, to protect the Dharma. Chen Qian said, Junior brother Yang, you don't look very well, why don't I accompany senior sister Gao in? Yang Kai shook his head and said, I can resist the erosion of evil thoughts, I will be fine. With his insistence, Chen Qian couldn't say anything more, so she could only tell her to be careful in everything. Time was running out. Yang Kai and Gao Shueting immediately found a stone room and walked in, meditating cross-legged. After the stone room was closed, Granny Yu braced herself to cast spells and opened the passage to the world of the immortal travel mirror. Two beams of profound light shot out from the immortal travel mirror and poured into the closed stone room. Yang Kai and Gao Shueting were shocked at the same time, inexplicably giving birth to a feeling of separation of mind and soul. It's not the first time to enter the world of Shenyu mirror, so I didn't resist, and let this pulling force pull the soul and fall in a certain direction. Carrot. Chapter 2932 Mirror Soul. It seemed that he had traveled through an endless tunnel of time and space, and when Yang Kai came back to his senses, he was already in a brand new world. An octogenarian in front of him was smiling at him, and beside the old man was sitting cross-legged in meditation. This man was handsome, with a calm and majestic expression. He was dressed in a purple robe, so who else was it? Senior Tianyan. Yang Kai hurriedly bowed to the old man. Not seen for many years, Tianyan is still the same, and there is no change. Having said that, Tianyan himself is a strong man at the level of a great emperor, and he does not have a physical body, but only exists in the form of a soul in this imaginary world, so naturally it is impossible for him to change much. You're here. Tianyan reached out and stroked his beard, as if he had expected Yang Kai's arrival. Yang Kai Dao. Why did we just appear here? Is it the help of the seniors? This place is a mountain peak, soaring into the sky, and it is unknown where it is located in the world of Shenyujing. It is obviously not a coincidence that it will appear here directly, and it should be helped. Tian Yan shook his head and said, "It wasn't me, he brought you here." While speaking, Tian Yan pointed to the side. Yang Kai glanced around, only to find that there was actually a boy not far away. That boy was fat and cute, he looked only 7 or 8 years old, he was chasing a dancing butterfly, having fun. Yang Kai was stunned, he didn't know what the origin of this boy was, he actually had such great energy. Gao Shueding also came here, but the asterisk was put on Wen Zishan's body. After careful inspection, she confirmed that Wen Zishan was fine, but she seemed to have suffered a little injury, so she felt relieved, turned to look at Tian Yan curiously. "Junior brother, this senior is." Although she has entered the fugue mirror many times. But he has never met Tianyan, only once heard from Wen Zishan that there seems to be someone comparable to a great emperor in Zhenwu world. Yang Kai Dao. This is Senior Tianyan. Gao Shueding hurriedly saluted. Tian Yan smiled and said, "I remember the little girl. You were only 16 when you first came in, right?" Gao Shueding blushed slightly, and said in a low voice, "Senior has a good memory." It's been that long, she didn't remember much herself, but she didn't want Tianyan to remember clearly. "Senior, what happened here?" Gao Shueding didn't want to spend too much time chatting, she just wanted to find out what happened here as soon as possible, why Wukuang would snatch the body of the great Emperor Hongchen and escape. Tian Yan said, "My old friend Hongchen seemed to have encountered some troubles before, so I came to ask the old man for help." The old man studied with him for many days, and managed to think of a way to separate the two souls. If he succeeds, he can kill that brother Wu. Imprisoned in this immortal world, Hongchen's old friends can also regain their freedom. Although everything was not going smoothly before, the bumps and bumps passed, but just now something suddenly rushed in, affecting the immortal world. That brother Wu took advantage of the situation to fight back, hurting old friend Hongchen and this little friend Wen, and then escaped. Yang Kai was shocked when he heard the words, "So, Senior Hongchen is not dead." Tian Yan glanced at him with a smile. Although brother Wu has great powers, it is impossible to kill Hongchen's old friend. He told you that Hongchen's old friend is dead. Yang Kai Dao. That's what he said, no wonder he wanted to kill us so much but was willing to let us go. It turned out that it was not out of good intentions. It was Senior Hongchen who interfered. It wasn't until this time that Yang Kai suddenly realized why Wukuang didn't really kill us before. Them people. Tian Yan said. He ran away as soon as he escaped. With Hongchen's old friend restraining him, he couldn't do whatever he wanted. I'm just afraid that he will suffer from Hongchen's old friend. His body will be occupied and his soul will be suppressed. That's all. No, speaking of him, the current plan is to solve the crisis of Zhenwu world first. Yang Kai looked sullen, looking up into the distance. The sky over there is filled with darkness. With a posture of a storm about to come, thunder and lightning flashed in the dark clouds. It looked terribly frightening. I just don't know why, although those dark clouds are constantly tumbling, they still can't break out of a certain range, as if there is some powerful restriction over there that restrains them. A strong demonic nature emerged from the dark clouds, obviously demonic thoughts were at work in it. Tian Yan said, "Things rushing from the outside world have a strong erosive force, and the creatures in the world can't resist it. You have also seen that such a large area has been eroded in just such a short time. If there are more in some time, this side of the world will probably fall." Yang Kai nodded solemnly. Even if Tian Yan didn't say it, he could feel it, and said, "How should I solve it?" "Senior, can't you do anything?" "There is a way, but I just need to use your strength." Tian Yan turned to look at him. "Me?" Yang Kai was stunned, he never thought that the heavy responsibility of saving the world would fall on him. Tian Yan smiled and said, "At first, I was a little worried that I would not find you for a while, but I didn't expect you to come in so soon. In fact, dealing with those things is difficult, and it is easy to say. With your soul-eating insect can." Yang Kai's expression lifted. So that's the case. The heaven-devouring battle technique devours everything, and the soul eater also devours everything. The immortal world was eroded by demonic thoughts, and a huge demonic energy was bred, which was a great disaster for the residents of the immortal world, but for the soul eater, it's just a delicious meal. Tian Yan knew that Yang Kai had soul-devouring insects on him, because when Yang Kai entered this place, he took a batch of them with him, which was the source of the chaos in the immortal world. Tian Yan used to guard them for countless years, until they were handed over to Yang Kai to take them away. "The soul eater is not on me, I have to go out and bring them in," Yang Kai said. Tian Yan said, "Go and come back quickly, Xiao Yuwen and the little girl should go out together, you don't need to intervene in the rest. Gao Shueding nodded lightly. She came here just to confirm Wen Zishan's situation. Now that she knew he was fine, she naturally didn't have to stay any longer. Tian Yan waved his hand lightly, a gentle force enveloped the souls of the three of them, and the next moment his vision changed, Yang Kai returned to his physical body. He quickly sacrificed the slave worm bracelet, communicated with his mind, and then pulled the soul-eating worm in the slave worm bracelet into his sea of consciousness, and placed it on the seven-colored treasure island. Immortal wandering world can only be entered with divine soul. Although the slave insect bracelet is an emperor treasure, it cannot be brought in, so Yang Kai can't release soul-eater insects, but it is different to place these strange insects on the colorful treasure island in the sea of consciousness up. After being kept in captivity for such a long time, the soul-eating worms have become extremely ferocious, especially after more than 2 years of fighting in the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland. In the later period, the soul-eating worms have repeatedly made extraordinary achievements. It's a stranger, so the crisis in the immortal world is not difficult to solve. He greeted Grandma Yu, and asked her to cast her spell again to send her spirit into the immortal ascension world, and Yang Kai soon reappeared on that mountain peak. Seeing him coming in, Tian Yan nodded slightly, turned his head and said to the boy who was chasing the butterfly, "Boy, stop playing, and help him quickly." Yang Kai had been curious about this boy before, not knowing who he was, but now he was even more surprised when he heard Tianyan ask him to help him. "Senior, he is." Tian Yan smiled slightly. "He is the mirror soul of the immortal traveling mirror. Those things can be confined within a certain range and cannot be expanded. It is his ability." Mirror soul. Yang Kai's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he stared at the boy with wide eyes. The boy was obviously uncomfortable with his gaze, walked over coyly, pretending to be fierce and said, "I warn you, don't hit me indiscriminately, I won't establish any contact with you." Yang Kai smiled and said, "I don't want to establish any contact with you, don't be so nervous." Who is nervous? The boy was vigilant towards Yang Kai. He walked to his side slowly, then raised his head and said, "Where's the thing?" "What?" Yang Kai was stunned. "Soul Eater." The boy sighed, "How can you be so stupid when you are so grown up?" Yes. Yang Kai quickly opened his sea of consciousness and released all the soul-devouring insects on the colorful treasure island. Suddenly, there was a buzzing sound, and a large cloud of insects gathered in front of him. The boy shivered, and waved his hand with disgust. The insect cloud suddenly disappeared, but Yang Kai keenly felt that they were transported thousands of miles away and rushed into the place where the magic cloud was. Feeling it carefully, Yang Kai soon realized that the cloud of soul-devouring insects was devouring the magic cloud covering the world, and the magic cloud was bound by the mirror soul, and it was impossible to expand again in a range. As long as it continued like this, Moyan will be swallowed up by the Soul Eater for a moment, and at that time, the immortal world will be restored to its original state. Rolling his eyes, Yang Kai looked at the boy and said, "What do you call my little brother?" The boy rolled his eyes. "Zhang San Li Si Wang Ma, whatever you want." Yang Kai coughed dryly. "Do you want to go outside and have a look?" Tian Yan suddenly laughed, and said, "Yang Xiao, you don't need to waste your energy, he can't leave this place." He obviously saw what Yang Kai was going to do. After being seen through by him, Yang Kai blushed slightly, and suddenly said seriously, "By the way, senior, the life pill has been found." Tian Yan frowned. "Oh, it's almost time to finish the training. Senior, if he wants, he can shape a physical body at any time." Tian Yan said, "Little friend Yang is indeed a man of integrity, I thank you for being here." Yang Kai laughed and said, "Senior, you're welcome, I got the life fruit by chance, and I didn't deliberately look for it." The boy frowned and interjected, "Are you leaving?" He looked up at Tian Yan, his expression seemed a little irritable. Tian Yan was silent for a while, and said, "I still want to go outside and have a look." The boy sneered, Go, it's better to die outside." While speaking, he glared at Yang Kai with resentment on his face. The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched, and he immediately realized that he might have no chance to subdue this mirror soul. To be continued. Chapter 2933 Lingering. Although the speed of the soul-devouring insects devouring is not slow, it can't be processed in a short while. Yang Kai and Tian Yan chatted for a while, and simply sat down cross-legged to recover. Although he was not injured in today's battle, at the last critical moment, in order to teleport those many emperors, it was a lot of consumption, especially the consumption of soul. There is no place more suitable for recovering the power of the soul than in the world of the mirror. While meditating, Yang Kai clearly felt that the energy between the heaven and the earth was attracted by him, pouring into his soul, making up for his losses, and he was in good condition after a while. After Jing Hun learned that Tian Yan was going to leave, he seemed to be a little depressed all the time. He didn't even catch the butterfly. He just sat aside and kicked pebbles boredly. Time is peaceful and silent. After 3 days like this, Yang Kai opened his eyes, and his eyes were no longer sluggish, and his eyes were radiant. Looking up at the distance, and then perceiving the state of the Soul Eater, Yang Kai understood that it would take at least half a day to solve the crisis in the Immortal Ascension world. He rolled his eyes, and came to the mirror soul to have nothing to do with him. Jing Hun didn't seem to hear his voice. No matter what Yang Kai said, he ignored it, making Yang Kai eat ashes. In desperation, he had no choice but to give up, and came to Tianyan again to ask him about cultivation. Although Tianyan has no physical body and only cultivates the power of the soul, but the Tao of the world is one way in 10,000 ways, standing at his height to see the problem is not the same. Many things that Yang Kai can't understand or are at a loss. Tianyan just said a few words it will allow him to gain new ideas. For a while, Yang Kai benefited a lot. Half a day later, Yang Kai woke up like a dream and looked up into the distance, summoned his Soul Eater, and said, "Senior, I have to take a step first. The temple has undergone a sudden change. There should be something going on outside. It needs to be dealt with, and I will talk to you about it in a few **** days. Okay, no rush." Tianyan nodded slightly. Yang Kai glanced at Jing Hun next to him. Mirror Soul just raised his hand, and Yang Kai suddenly noticed a huge and incomparable repulsive force squeezed from all around. He was excluded from this world without the slightest preparation. When the vision changed, Yang Kai had already returned to the forbidden area. Opening her eyes and pushing open the door of the stone room, Chen Qian, who heard the movement outside, hurriedly greeted her. "Junior brother Yang, you're awake, how's the situation inside?" Chen Qian asked nervously. Yang Kai Dao. "The inside has been dealt with, what about the outside?" Chen Qian said, "Let's talk while walking." Yang Kai naturally had no objection, and the two of them chatted while facing the layman. 3 days ago, a group of elders from Qingyang Temple came to the forbidden area where the miracle mirror was stored, while Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming stayed at Lingjian Peak to investigate the situation. After some searching, he found a demon-sealed place thousands of feet underground in Lingjian Peak, and there was an obvious demonic aura remaining. If it weren't for Gong Jia's attack this time, no one would have thought that there was such a place inside the Qingyang Temple. When Wen Zishan established a sect here, he had carefully inspected the surrounding environment, but he didn't know anything about the hidden demon-sealed place. Many of the restrictions in the land of sealing demons have been broken now. It should be Gong Ji's hands and feet, otherwise those demonic thoughts would not be able to be released. Right now, the elders of the temple are all on Lingjian Peak. One is to check if there is any fish that slipped through the net, and the other is to completely seal it off. After all, it is the place where demons are sealed, even if there is no magic in it. No one can be sure that there is no danger. In addition, the news of the revival of the evil spirit and the escape from the Qingyang Temple has already been passed on. Countless sects and experts in the southern region are urgently tracking down the whereabouts of the escaped demons, in order to drive them out before they cause more damage. But everyone knows that this is a bit difficult. The magic thought is invisible, it is just a special form of energy. Maybe it does not have its own thinking, it can only be attached to the living beings, erode the thinking of the living beings, and make them become demons. So this kind of tracking is extremely difficult, but no matter what, this matter cannot be left alone. During the 3 days when Yang Kai was absent, a lot of information was shuttled between the various sects in the southern region. The revival of the magic thought has caused a lot of uproar, and everyone in the world knows it. Not long, the two came to Lingjian Peak together. The land of sealing demons is not at the top of Lingjian Peak, but at a certain position at the foot of the mountain. A stone cave is wide open, dark and bottomless, and there are bursts of eerie aura coming out of it, as if leading directly to the nether world. A group of emperors stood outside the entrance of the cave, all of them staring at the entrance with stern expressions. Wen Zishan's expression was especially dignified. Hundreds of thousands of evil spirits escaped from the Qingyang Temple. As the lord of the temple, he is naturally to blame, especially now that the Emperor Hongqian is also in a bad situation, and the smile that was always on his face in the past is no longer there. Gao Shueting and others were standing beside him, and Chen Wenhao and Feng Ming didn't leave either. They needed to know the exact news about the demon-sealed land below so that they could pass it back to their respective sects. Seeing Yang Kai coming, everyone saluted each other silently. "How's the situation?" Yang Kai stood next to Yukun and asked in a low voice. Yukun shook his head and said, "Magic thoughts have probably escaped, and now we are trying to break the remaining restrictions, and see what the whole picture of the land of sealing demons looks like. Maybe we can find some clues from it. It's just, quote, just what?" Yukun laughed dryly. "The formation masters in the temple need some time." Yang Kai probably understood what Yukun meant. The demon-sealing land was full of ancient restrictions and formations. Even if Gongjia had broken some of them before, there were still many remaining. The level of formation masters in the temple might not be very good satisfactorily. The progress of breaking the ban is a bit slow. It's fine if it's normal, the key is time is running out now. If you delay for one more day, it may be more difficult to track down those evil thoughts. At this point, Yang Kai looked at Wen Zishan and said, "How master, I know an emperor formation master, do you need me to invite him to help?" Wen Zishan's eyes lit up when he heard the words, and asked, "Is it reliable?" "It's from my Lingxiao palace." "Then please come here quickly," Wen Zishan said in a hurry, and suddenly showed a wry smile. "Your Lingxiao palace is far away in the northern territory." Yang Kai smiled and said, "Come right away." While speaking, he disappeared in a flash, and everyone didn't know what he was going to do. Although they were surprised that there was an emperor formation master in the Lingxiao palace, after all, the long-distance water could not quench their thirst. When Yang Kai brought people over from the northern territory, the day lily would be cold. Yang Kai was very fortunate that he had set up a cross-domain space magic circle on the back mountain of Lingjian Peak. His original intention of arranging this magic circle was mainly to connect the Lingxiao Palace with the Qingyang Temple so that it would be convenient for him to come and go. There are more than one similar magic circle. It's just that for some reason, he didn't reveal it to anyone, and even used the power of many formations in Lingjian Peak to hide the formation, so Wen Zishan and others didn't know about it. He headed directly towards the back mountain, preparing to go back to Lingxiao Palace and bring the South Gate army over. What remains in the land of sealing demons are some ancient prohibitions and formations. The Nanman army has always loved these things, so he probably won't refuse them. When approaching the place where the magic circle was, Yang Kai suddenly paused, frowning and looking aside. He felt a very faint breath, which made him feel familiar. Under the eyes, Yang Kai's face changed, and he urged Emperor Yuan as if he was facing a big enemy. In the woods over there, lay a bloody and incomplete little beast. From the remaining fur, it could be vaguely seen that it should have been black. It was about a foot long, with a weak breath and a bulging belly. It took a while to calm down. Returned to the ruins. It was still alive, and ran to the back mountain. Yang Kai has been staying in the immortal world for the past few days, so he doesn't know much about Guishu's fate. He only knows that during the scuffle, Feng Ming kicked it away, and it disappeared immediately. Yang Kai always thought it was dead. According to what Gong Jia said before, this little black dog has a trace of the blood of a demonic beast returning to the ruins, and he activated the power of the blood with an unknown secret technique. The battle between the 8 emperors is inextricable. Yang Kai reckoned that if it wasn't for its impure bloodline or too weak bloodline strength, everyone present at that time would have suffered. The kind of supernatural power that can swallow everything and even rebound is simply sensational. Guishu didn't die, and after getting rid of Gong Jia's control, there was no news of it. Chen Wenhao and others were also busy investigating the news of the sealed demon land, but they didn't pay attention to its whereabouts and let it come to the back mountain to linger. But it should not be far from death. Yang Kai only had a relationship with this little black dog twice, so he couldn't talk about much affection, but he was just interested in its strange innate supernatural powers. After making sure it was out of breath and not threatening, Yang Kai slowly walked in front of it. Guishu seemed to have noticed something, opened a gap in his eyes to look at the figure standing in front of it, and whimpered twice, appearing extremely weak. Yang Kai raised his palm, and Emperor Yuan surged in his palm. Guishu's eyes closed slowly, as if he had resigned himself to his fate, and hot breath came out of his nostrils. Yang Kai slapped it hard, but stopped only 3 inches away from Guishu, turned it into a grab, lifted it up, and sighed, "It depends on your own good fortune to live or die. Gone." When he finished speaking, he threw Guishu into mysterious Shaoji. No matter how powerful the innate magical power of this demonic beast is, as long as it is still in the mysterious small world, it will be restrained by Yongkai, so Yongkai is not worried that it will explode into trouble after it recovers. Whether it can survive is another matter. What's more, Yongkai always felt that its nature was not like this. When they met for the first 2 times, Guishu did not show any malice towards it, but was a little close to him, especially the second time. Guishu obviously came over looking for him. To be continued.